All right, it is 4 p.m., and I'm going to call the special formal meeting for the City of Iowa City to order for January 10th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Alter.
Here.
Fergus.
Here.
Harmson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Teague.
Here.
Thomas. And Mr. Mayor, if I can ask for just a moment's pause until the clerk is able to return.
I'm here too.
I am so sorry.
Did I not say Thomas? I'm sorry.
You did, but I didn't have a chance to.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right. So we're going to wait for our city clerk to come in the building. So,
Crutches.
yes. But welcome to everyone. Happy to see everyone here today. All right. We can begin. So the first item is that we're going to be talking about is the council vacancy, which is item number 2. This is a resolution appointing the 7 finalists, well, one of the 7 finalists to serve the unexpired term of council member Janice Weiner. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved, Harmson.
Second, Taylor.
All right. So just wanted to give kind of a quick review of how we got here today. On November 9th, we received the resignation of Janice Weiner, our former colleague, who was elected to the Iowa Senate seat, number 45. November 15th, the council voted to do an appointment, and an appointment versus an election. While we did know a petition could still come forth either 14 days before, after that decision, or 14 days after the appointment, we decided to go with an appointment. Applications went live on the city website on November 21st, 2022, and it ended January 3rd, 2023. And on December 7th, this past Saturday, the council was very pleased to see 21 individuals interested in serving their community. And I think I speak for this council when we say, one, we were surprised, we were pleased, and we were very impressed with all of the applicants and what they had to offer. It put us in a hard position where we went from 21 down to 7 applicants that we made finalists to come before us today. And so that is where we are on December 10th, this Tuesday, where those 7 finalists will come before us today. What we did was we kind of put everybody's name in a basket, and we drew to find out who would go first. And so I will state the order in which the applicants will come before us, or the finalists will come before us. First will be Andrew Dunn, then Joshua Moe, followed by Nali, Sean McRoberts, Mary Masher, Amanda Remington, and then Elizabeth Miglin. All right, so that is how we'll do the order. And we're going to start with Andrew Dunn. Welcome at this time. Actually, before you start, I want to make sure that I give all the applicants some information. You'll have up to 10 minutes, and there's a timer here that will show the 10 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the rest of the council for selecting me as one of the finalists. I want to reiterate for the rest of the room, I guess my name is Andrew Dunn, and I am deeply appreciative of being selected as a finalist for this open seat. We are collectively very fortunate to have had many incredible and passionate applicants. I'd first like to offer a brief outline of my remarks. I'll first begin by addressing the 4 core topic areas of concern detailed in Mayor Teague's invitation to speak today, starting with personal core values and how they'll guide my public service as a city councilor. I will then touch on my experience and demonstrated critical skills in working collaboratively in a group dynamic, followed by a brief overview of my broader schedule and ability to dedicate hours every week to all aspects of council functions. I will then share my thoughts on the council's recently adopted strategic plan and share a personal pitch. So first, one of the things that I am most proud of our community about is our willingness to, when the rubber hits the road, put our money where our mouth is. Iowa City is a proudly progressive community. I am a proud, pragmatic progressive, but rather than leave that as a buzzword, I'd like to detail what that means to me and what it should mean to you and the rest of our community. As a pragmatic progressive, I am someone who understands the realities of the situation on the ground and who will work tirelessly to get our community the best possible outcome on a given issue. The best outcome, however, is not one that is prescribed by any one person or type of thinking or ideology or anything like that. Our world is not so black and white, and our community's wealth of diversity goes far beyond color, creed, class, ethnicity, or immigration status. Bedrock to my pragmatic progressivism, and in my opinion to our democracy, is the idea that one must be first and foremost open-minded and willing to listen to a broad array of solutions and ideas. A pragmatic progressive is someone who, in working to build, or as former Mayor Jim Throgmorton would say, co-craft the just city, understands the need for the community, that the needs of the community are best met when we ensure the safety and prosperity of our lowest common denominator, of our marginalized communities, of our poor, our working families, and our elders. To achieve these goals, I believe that collaborative leadership and partnership are the best way to go. When leaders work together to achieve common goals and abstain from searching for limelight and recognition, we can achieve good, common-sense solutions rooted in diverse community experiences. This community-centered approach, reliant on consistent feedback from constituents, is my lodestar. I don't care to be in front of a camera or in the news. I could care less, or couldn't care less, perhaps. I want to make sure that kids down my street by Mercer Park can afford to have a family and a home someday with food on the table in the future. I've spent the last decade, or I guess rather with regard to experience in the group dynamic, I've spent the last decade working to improve my community and realize these aforementioned goals. In 2008, my family lost our home and my parents lost their jobs. I've seen struggle and I've lived in a lot of the hardship that many people in our community are still facing after the COVID-19 pandemic. Since 2008, I've dedicated a lot of my time to advocating for working families like my own. I applied for this open Iowa City Council seat for the same reason I ran for State House in 2022, because the government should work for us. I started as a volunteer for Barack Obama in 2012, then served on 3 legislative advisory councils for youth, families, and criminal juvenile justice reform. Within 5 years, I was elected to local Democratic leadership. And by 2018, I joined the gun violence prevention movement and began leading the major statewide nonprofit March for Our Lives, Iowa. And after working the 2020 general election, when we found out control of the U.S. Senate, a working family majority, was going to be on the line, I went down to Atlanta, Georgia, to help elect Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. More recently, I left a position with the American Civil Liberties Union, where I worked every day to raise money for their efforts to end voter suppression nationwide. And last Monday, I started my yesterday. Yesterday, I started my 4th session in the Iowa State Senate, serving Senator Claire Celsey. I've worked through 3 budgeting cycles in the state government, and while budgets between state and local governments are significantly different, anyone going into this situation is going to have about the same experience. Nobody behind me, or who is going to be speaking after me, has any experience doing a city budget. But I'm confident that my experience with nonprofits, my experience with state government, gives me the great experience, or gives me enough experience to hit the ground running, familiarity with the concepts, and will allow me to really start immediately. I also know how to ask the right questions in this regard, and understand that when it comes to our greatest priorities of our community, there has to be balance. We can't rob Peter to pay Paul. And I know that the only way to do that, to secure that balance, to secure our priorities in the future, is to put in the hours and do the work. My work has garnered major successes in the past. A de facto ban on gay conversion therapy for minors in this state, the closing of the synthetic marijuana loophole that killed dozens of kids across our country and multiple across our state, and I also was able to help secure more funding for large public schools through the extension of the SAVE tax for education. I couldn't do these alone. Teams and teamwork were critical to success at every step and every moment. Regarding scheduling and time commitments, Very sexy, I know. I am certain that I will be able to meet the time commitments required for the smooth functioning of all formal and informal duties of a counselor. My weekly time obligations are as follows. Monday through Thursday, I work remotely on call as a legislative aide in the Iowa Senate. The bulk of the work in a given day for that position is generally completed before 10 a.m. My full-time position is with a scientific manufacturing company in the area, where I have a generous amount of paid time off and only work Friday through Sunday. I have ample time during the average work week to read council packets and interact with community constituents and other stakeholders. As detailed in my application, I also plan to hold regularly scheduled office hours, perhaps once or twice a month, so constituents can meet with me privately to discuss issues of their concerns. I keep myself busy, but I assure you the workload will be nothing compared to the 12 to 16-hour days I did while running for State House and running 2 consecutive other State House campaigns following my failure in the primary. Regarding the strategic plan, it is clear that our community faces a multitude of challenges: economic challenges, social challenges, environmental challenges, and more. The strategic plan does a great job of laying out our values and plans to address and deal with these concerns. I'm particularly pleased with the city's plans to expand public transportation options, make our community safer and more friendly to pedestrians, and expand opportunities and equity for communities of color to advance economically while balancing community growth and maintenance of community culture and civil society. Broadly, I am supportive, but a plan is just that, a plan. The job of whomever you appoint today will be to work with others on the council to make sure that this plan is implemented to the best of our ability, to make changes when needed, and to ensure above all else that our values shine through in every action and thought. Finally, I'd like to discuss the broader implications of my personal appointment. The median age of an Iowa City resident is 26 years old. That means at present, over half of our community does not have demographic representation on the council with shared life experiences. In a time when rent is near or at an all-time high in our community, we don't have a renter on the council to share their voice and concerns. I am. The turnout in this last midterm election shows us clearly that more work needs to be done to cultivate and instill democratic values and participation in the youth of our community. I've always believed that relatability and accessibility are critical to addressing those issues. And that's why, being a young person on the council, if appointed, I'd like to work to establish a city youth advisory body that empowers students from diverse backgrounds and schools to engage in the political process at every level. It's a known fact that democracy in our nation is under threat, and as those on the very front lines of it, I believe you, and hopefully me, have an obligation to get as many people involved in trusting the institutions as possible. I've worked extensively with youth advisory bodies in the past, and am more than willing to take the lead on this after the budgeting process concludes. I thank you all very much for your time, and hope things turn out well for me. But in any case, I know that we're in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to invite Joshua Moe at this time. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor Teague.
Hello.
Mayor Pro Tem Alter, and Councilors Harmsen, Taylor, Thomas, and Burgess. My name is Josh Moe, and I thank you very much for selecting me as a finalist to fill Janice Weiner's now vacant City Council seat. I love Iowa City, and I am very proud to be here. And I'm here today because I want to serve the citizens of Iowa City, and I believe I'm the person who can collaborate with you to make this great city even better. That's it. It's that simple. I don't have an agenda for a political career, and I don't have a single issue that I want to promote. I simply love Iowa City, and I want to help. I want to start by acknowledging that I'm asking the 6 of you to pick me, and I'm not asking 74,000 Iowa citizens to vote for me. That's a huge burden that you're placing on yourselves. This selection process goes poorly, that's on you. But I respect the decision that you made, because special elections are costly, time-consuming, and typically yield very low voter turnout. Your choice to appoint versus calling an election was wise, was prudent, and was economical. Voters will still have an opportunity to select a counselor for the seat in 10 months, and they will have 14 days after this appointment to call or petition for an election. I also want to thank you for making time for me. In the run-up to this appointment, I had the opportunity to reach out to all of you and speak with most of you. I found that you are not only accessible, but generous with your time, kind, and thoughtful. You encouraged me to apply for this position, You encouraged me to run for future elections, and you all provided insights on how this job impacts your personal lives and your careers. I discovered that being a good counselor takes a lot of time. So thank you for being accessible, and thank you for your service. Finally, I want to acknowledge the work that the city staff does to execute your will. Over the years, I've collaborated with the City Manager's Office, Parks and Recreation, the Senior Center, Neighborhood and Development Services, and Public Works, and developed good relationship with the city and staff, both past and present. I'm pleased to see an exceptionally well-prepared fiscal year 2024 budget, 23-25 financial plan, and 23-27 capital improvement plan. Those thank yous represent my core values. I aim to be prudent and decisive. I aim to be accessible to the public, and I aim to be well-planned and forward-thinking, all grounded in gratitude and optimism. Building consensus, thinking creatively, and developing long-term vision is the core of my work as an architect. In your letter inviting us to speak today, you asked for experience, demonstrated skills working collaboratively in a group dynamic. I offer a recent experience, a professional experience, where I was the lead architect responsible for Marion Independent School District's $36 million bond vote to improve their facilities. I worked with the school's leadership team, the Board of Education, staff, students, the community, and we developed a plan that matched their needs. We developed dozens of plans and costing models. At each step, we stressed the value of agile planning, of iteration, and consensus building. All of this was done in a transparent and open format, and we used new technologies to invite everyone to the table. The result was not my plan, but the community's plan. And because that plan belonged to so many people, in March of 2021, that bond passed at an 84.6% yes. That's unheard of. When developing plans for the senior center or managing Parks and Rec's master plan, that's what we have to do. We have to build overwhelming support by engagement and agile planning and transparency. Before applying for this position, I reached out to you and had the opportunity to ask you about your personal time commitment to prepare for and attend city council meetings, represent the city council at city events and community functions, and communicate with residents and stakeholders. I was impressed with your efforts and moved by the quantity of time given. I will admit this might be my Achilles heel to being a counselor. I have a demanding career, and I already know that I would miss the February 7th city council meeting. However, I've learned as a senior project manager that if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. Our city charter, city manager form of government, and the remuneration to serve presumes that our city council is not a full-time job. I think the citizens of Iowa City, when they choose our form of government and the income provided to our councilors, intended for busy, engaged citizens to serve. If selected, I will continue to work and will, like many of you, balance my career and this very important responsibility. Even though I have a full plate, I've reviewed the 772-page information packet for tonight's 6 p.m. meeting. I've studied the proposed 727-page budget and read the newest strategic plan. It's the alignment and sometimes misalignments between the strategic plan and the budget where I think I can provide the most value to City Council and the citizens of Iowa City. First, we must provide the citizens of Iowa City with the core services that they expect: water and sewer, police and fire, transportation infrastructure, and parks and recreation. That's the foundation of city government, and regardless of what our state legislature chooses to do, I promise to the citizens of Iowa City that I would start there. However, that's not enough. Iowa citizens expect more, and I think the strategic plan helps guide us on those other goals. To fight climate change and achieve our strategic value to decarbonize, we have to lead by example. The lowest hanging fruit is to electrify city-owned buildings and power our buildings with clean energy. Many city-owned buildings have gas-fired rooftop units and gas-fired boilers and gas hot water heaters. We need a plan and clear policy to replace this equipment when the time is right. In the private sector, we can do more too. We can work harder to confirm that new buildings actually meet energy code and encourage electrification, perhaps by aligning our franchise fees for gas bills and electric bills with our strategic values to fight climate change and decarbonize. Reducing operational carbon, specifically reducing energy consumption, is only part of the climate change puzzle. We must also address embodied energy, the carbon we use to build stuff. And the best way to do that is to rehabilitate old buildings, infill to create more density, and leverage existing infrastructure, and target vacancy and underutilization. Those easily achievable, attainable goals address climate action and don't break the bank for its residents. In addition to climate action, those climate-saving opportunities address another goal, specifically addressing equity and social justice through affordable housing. I want to use my construction knowledge and planning experience to promote compact, authentic, vibrant communities and affordable housing throughout the city. We must quickly and carefully develop safe, affordable, diverse, and desirable housing. The city cannot develop housing at the necessary rate or volume, so we need to work with developers to find performers that work for them financially and meet our strategic goals. To achieve this, neighborhood and development services need more human resources. Ms. Haichu's report in the proposed budget clearly articulates that there is a critical bottleneck in the ability to review proposed works due to complexity, lack of flexibility, and the number of reviews in the department. This bottleneck is exaggerating our affordable housing crisis. Over the years, I've seen persistent reductions in neighborhood and development services and its predecessor departments. The department cannot react and review, let alone plan proactively. This is a self-inflicted wound that can be remedied immediately. Changes to the comprehensive plan and the zoning code, an action item within the strategic plan, also are needed if we want to increase and improve affordable housing options. Because our community wants us to address affordable housing, I think these changes are worth pursuing, but they will certainly take more time and substantial community input. However, we need to start now if we're serious about addressing the affordable housing crisis. There's so many more issues to address and not enough time for specifics. However, I want to acknowledge this council must, in the very near future, find a way to help the Truth and Reconciliation Commission move forward, decide how to divvy up direct aid to agencies, collaborate with the Iowa City Community School District on child care, and what to do about public pools in Iowa City. Even items on the agenda tonight, like in lieu or fee in lieu payments for affordable housing, and do those promote the goals in our strategic plan? I think my skills can help advance those conversations. It's a privilege to stand here and be considered for this position. When I read the applications and the biographies of the other finalists, I quickly realized that Iowa City will be well served by any of us. The reality is that one of us will join the City Council, but 6 of us will not. If I'm not selected, I promise to you that I'll be a productive participant in moving Iowa City forward. But if I am selected, I know that my professional experience, my unique skills, and my temperament could serve the betterment of Iowa City. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to invite Nali at this time. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Teague. Good evening, all the councilors and all the friends come here. My name is Nali. You can call me Nina. I am an immigrant, minority, a wife, and a mom. I got my first master's degree in China and came to the United States in 2010 to teach at Lakes International Academy in Minnesota. At the completion of my contract, I enrolled at the University of Iowa and received my second master's degree in teaching Chinese as a foreign language. During this time, I worked, studied, while raising my daughter. Currently, as an adjunct professor at the University of Iowa, I teach part-time and work part-time as a leasing administrator. There are 4 topics we need to talk about. As for the first topic, personal core value, I am efficient, competent, honest. I consider myself responsible, dependable. In one word, I am trustworthy. In public eyes, I will treat everybody fairly and for the good of the people. I believe in a motto which was said by Bertrand Russell, the British mathematician. This is my lifetime motto. He says, make your interest gradually wider and more impersonal until bit by bit, the walls of the ego recede and your life becomes increasingly immersed in the universal life. That means you need to remove your self-interest for the public service. I believe people are created equal. We need to do whatever we can to merge into the sea of the community and help the community in general. It is easy to look at the state of the world today and feel pessimistic, overwhelmed, even powerless. Especially after 2022, the social unrest brought on by the killing of George Floyd and the COVID-19 virus resulted in the surge of Asian hate crimes. But I have tremendous confidence and faith in this city's ability to overcome what seemed like insurmountable obstacles. Great progress often comes in times of adversity. We all share in the responsibility to leave Iowa City better than we found it. The Asian community is the fastest growing and second largest minority group in the city. However, we are not well represented. As a member of Asian community, it would be an honor for me to participate in the decision-making process. The second question is, the role of the City Council is to provide services and make decisions on behalf of the residents of Iowa City and local government. I believe my experience make me qualified to serve on this council. As president of Iowa City Area Chinese Association, I took lead in organizing 11 events in the past year. The highlights of the events are, in April 2021, I was a speaker at a rally to stop Asian hate. Following the rally, Bruce Teague, the mayor of Iowa City, has signed the proclamation of AAPI Day against bullying, which is May 18th. On that day, a dance party celebrating AAPI Day against bullying was organized by us in the pedestrian mall in support of the city's decision to fight against human bullying. In September 2021, I was one of the organizers of the Music of Love concert for charity. Asian student musicians from West High School and Northwest Junior High School performed at the concert, raising over $2,000. The funds were donated to the services for teenagers 12 to 18 years old in the United Action for Youth. It's a local nonprofit charity organization. So it is a place for the youth to have a voice and give back creatively to their community. This event made the future generation of the Chinese community aware of the importance of helping other people of different ethnic groups and aided in bridging the gap. In January 2022, on behalf of the Iowa City Area Chinese Association, I applied and I was awarded a $3,000 grant from the Human Rights Commission of the city. This award will allow the ICACA to host and celebrate a Lunar New Year celebration at the English Theater on January 22nd, 2023, which is in 2 weeks. It's the second Sunday from now. And I noticed that the city has sent a notice of our gala today. Thank you very much. And everybody sitting here are invited for the Lunar New Year Gala event. You can find the information at English Theater's website and the City News website. In April 2022, organized an evening of performing arts featuring traditional song and dance in honor of Asian cultural heritage and holiday spirit. The event was celebrated greater than 200 attendees and included notable guests as the mayor of both Coralville and Iowa City. Okay, it seems that I don't have too much time, so let me jump to what I do not only for the Chinese community, but also work with other community. I believe that we are on the same boat, should work with each other. For this reason, I joined the election campaign team of Mayor Teague and helped him resume his second term. Financially, I've contributed to Cadenza Music Charity Club at West High School to raise money for Ukraine. I'm also a regular contributor to the UI Presto School of Music and the International Crane Foundation in Wisconsin, a wildlife center featuring 15 pieces of cranes. I'm passionate about being a member of City Council and will be available to fulfill my role. My current work hours are flexible. Okay, last question about the FY 2023-28 strategic plan. I like the strategy of developing Iowa City into a community to continue launching new business and expanding existing business. Iowa City has proven itself to be a world-class healthcare facility and a UNESCO literature city. I'd like to build on that by creating a world-class city of the arts. To reach this goal, we can start a multicultural center in the heart of downtown Iowa City or multicultural village along the Iowa River as a tourism icon. We can reuse the available properties. Iowa is known as the corn state. I would like to create a corn center like Wilson's Apple Orchard for kids to teach them how to understand corn planting, picnicking, and making corn dishes. I will work with school district to start a gifted and talented program, have people start business in ACT, SAT training, foreign language co-learning with the native speaker students, Math Olympics, NASA Kids, so and so, and work with Regina High School to enroll more international students by starting boarding business for them. This will increase the enrollment of University of Iowa international students and the quality of those students. And it can also help with our tourism.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to call forth Sean McRoberts. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Sean McRoberts. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be with you, to speak with you, Mayor Teague and council members. I'm also especially grateful for all of the applicants for this open position and those who have spoken this evening and who will speak after me. I have no concern over the quality of leadership that we will have here in our city, whether I'm selected or not. And so I'm grateful for everyone who's involved in this process, for the way this process has been created and crafted and is being carried out. I appreciate, too, the prompts that were given for this evening's time and will frame my comments around my core values, those values which guide my life and which will guide my work as a member of the City Council. My core values include integrity, equity, and interdependence. Integrity, equity, and interdependence. As I live into my value of integrity, I seek to speak and act consistently so that there is resonance between my words and my actions, and all that I say and do is in accordance with who I am as a human. I seek to take responsibility for my words and actions, so that anything that I do and say, I can be accountable for, both for the intent and for the impact of my actions. I strive to remain humble and teachable, so that I can adapt to new situations, and so that I can be an effective part of my community. I find this important personally for my personal growth and relationships with others, and I believe that being humble and teachable is also a vital aspect of our community leadership and the life of our city council. As I live into my value of integrity, I seek to demonstrate respect to all who I encounter, and to employ practices of listening and the cultivation of trust. As Adrienne Marie Brown writes, if you trust the people, they will become trustworthy. And so I seek to live into ways of cultivating that trust through relationship, through seeking to see those that I am with, to see their best interest, and to see them at their best, so that I might expect the best of them as well, as we build community together. I value equity. I value equity and will prioritize equity and justice work in my work for the city. That means being intentional about the place of privilege in my life and the actions of the city. I need to be intentional about my own privilege, that which I carry, and aware of the dynamics of power and privilege within leadership bodies such as the council. It's particularly important to be aware of this when holding a position of power, because our actions can impact others negatively even without our intent. In being intentional about my privilege, I prioritize listening and amplify voices that are often ignored. And I'm willing to take space to tell the truth when necessary, especially in order to seek justice and to address harm that has been done. I'm invested in creating access and an accessible city council. I'm committed to going where the people are so that we can cultivate the kind of trust and relationship with our city leadership that will lead to a strong, close-knit community. My work hours are flexible and will allow me to represent the city at various events. And I see myself participating in events organized by entities and groups outside of the city leadership so that the city can be present where people are, particularly seeking out folks who experience barriers in engaging with the city, especially those who have work shifts over top of city activities and meetings, or who experience language barriers. I value interdependence. As my colleague at the Wesley Center, Reverend Anna Bladel, often says, we need each other. We need each other. It's true in an existential, universal sense. It's true when collaborating on a shared work. And it's true in a particular way of those of us who make a life in the city together. We need each other. I see the city as a collective endeavor, shared resources being directed toward the common good. And all of our decisions as city leaders must be guided by that goal, advancing that common good, especially being mindful of the times and settings when we and our neighbors are vulnerable or our well-being precarious. In terms of collaborative work, it is my preferred mode of operation. I've often shared leadership as part of a team. It's where I think I thrive, in working alongside of others toward a common purpose. Recently, I've had opportunity to do so in the racial audit of the Methodist Federation for Social Action. It's been an endeavor almost 3 years on, and in that work I have led among a gifted and diverse team with my co-moderator, Pat Stewart. I found in doing this work the importance of framing the task at hand and then stepping back to allow others who have appropriate gifts to each task to step forward. I find that in that dance of forward and back, of stepping in and out, that we're each able to bring our perspectives and gifts to the greater work that is at hand. And I find that I'm most effective in encouraging and amplifying the others who I work alongside for the shared work toward our final goal. In terms of the city's strategic plan, I feel generally positive about the good work that has been done and that was adopted last month. I think that a 5-year plan approach is wise and promotes continuity that we can build on as a community. I find that the values and impact areas align fairly well with my hopes for the city. The challenge, as I see it, will be how to navigate the conflicts that will arise as priorities come into conflict. As it will be essential in those moments to turn toward our values, the values named in the strategic plan of racial equity, social justice, and human rights, of climate action, and partnerships and engagement. And as I approach this work, I will commit to prioritizing especially racial equity, social justice, and human rights. For if we hold on to these values and remain true to our commitments, we will guide this city toward our envisioned future, a city in which all people can thrive, in which we live with confidence and hope. I look forward to joining you in leading this work. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to invite up Mary Masher at this time. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you again for honoring me by being one of the 7 finalists. This group here is very qualified, and I don't envy you your decision-making. Obviously, you've got good people to choose from, and they are people who are passionate about this community, and I consider myself one of them. I wanted to start by telling you that I got my first start in government by being on the Parks and Rec Commission for the city of Iowa City. And it was truly an honor to do that and be appointed by a council. I credit them for helping us get the first girls softball league started in Iowa City, and also those diamonds that are so beautiful on the south side of town. You asked about our core values, and I will tell you that my love is for my family, my friends, my community, and then for public service. I'll start by saying, I won't go into the family and friends. They know who I am, and they've been around me a long time and know how passionate I am. In terms of community, I was a Iowa City school teacher for 33 years, and I credit, again, a lot of the leadership skills that I developed over that time as being president of the Iowa City Education Association and then our chief negotiator when we were bargaining with the school district. I also then, in public service, obviously I've been 28 years in the Iowa legislature. And during that time, I've had a great deal of experience working with a variety of individuals, let me just put it that way. People who have very different backgrounds, very different priorities, very different maybe religious beliefs as well. And so trying to find common ground was one of the things, the goals that I achieved in terms of working with others who are oftentimes difficult to find that common ground with. I pride myself in being able to do that. Currently, I am involved with Habitat for Humanity, and next year the Women's Build will be in my honor, so I am extremely excited about helping with building a new home in the community for individuals who are in need. 522 for Good is another organization I'm a part of. Altrusa, I'll be their co-president next year. Open Heartland, I volunteer there on a regular basis. I'm also involved with our retired teachers of Johnson County and a group called the Foundation for the Trades, which are looking to, again, increase dollars available to our high school students so we can get them into the trades and help them develop the skills they need to have successful jobs. Working collaboratively, I know many of our elected officials in this community. I've worked with those others on city councils. I've also been a part of, obviously, working with the school board and believe that their efforts right now with the local option sales tax for childcare is certainly a priority for me as well and something that I would love to work on. I can tell you that obviously there are lots of different views that come to you as council members, and listening and hearing those views and being able to make decisions based on the input you get from the community and from staff is really critical, and that's something that I think I have a skill in doing as well. Hard work, I'm not afraid of that. Long hours, I'm used to that. It is not unusual for us in the legislature to work late into the night, and obviously, I was here on Saturday to listen to part of the budget discussion. I told Jeff I didn't want to print out the 700 pages. I thought I'd save a tree that way, but I have been reading over the budget recommendations that you've been making, and again, I want to congratulate you on a budget that reflects the values of this community. In terms of the strategic plan, I look at the strategic plan as your vision and the budget as your way of implementing that vision. And your budget is really amazing in light of the fact that you are very responsible about the taxpayer dollars, but you also recognize the needs within the community. So the efforts that you've made with the police department in terms of those social workers and people who are helping with people who may have mental illness in our community, your work with the Access Center in Johnson County, and again, keeping people out of jails and in those diversion programs out of our hospitals, those are all commendable. And I know those were collaborative efforts not only with this council, but with the community as a whole and with the Johnson County Board of Supervisors as well. So we need to, again, give you accolades for that, but also celebrate the fact that we recognize those needs within our community and are willing to take action when we need to. I was also going to give a shout out to the Better Together 2030 group, because their goals are very similar to yours. And again, look at how you collaborate with other entities in terms of furthering the priorities and values in this community. Racial equity, social justice, human rights, your affordable housing initiatives demonstrate that. You are looking for ways to help individuals get into a home and be able to keep and maintain that home. You've got that in your values, you've got that in your budget as well, and it reflects well on all of you. Public safety, I've talked about, again, what we've been able to do at a local level to, again, identify what we can do to incorporate more of our policing so that people see them as individuals who are part of our community and people that they can trust and be friends with as well. I also wanted just to mention your climate action. The solar that you've put on buildings, what you've been doing with electric buses. You are leaders in the state, and you need to recognize that. Communities are not doing that right now. Your partnerships, again, with the communities, neighborhood associations. I'm part of the Southside Neighborhood Association, very proud of that. And again, diversity markets, those kinds of things, again, are collaborative efforts, and I hope we can continue those. I'm proud of the fact that we're a UNESCO City of Literature. Great city for the arts, small city for the arts. We should be proud of those kinds of accolades as well. And again, just to summarize, I love this community, and I'm going to stay as active as I can as long as I can and am able to, and regardless of your decision tonight, that won't change for me. I will attend meetings and attend events because I love this community and I love to be around the people who are a part of it. So again, thank you for your consideration tonight. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Again, good luck with your decision.
Thank you. We're going to invite Amanda Remington. Welcome.
Hi. I want to start by thanking Janice Weiner for her service. I'm certain that her eyes and ears in the Congress will be a benefit to this council. I also want to thank all of you for the opportunity to explain why I'm qualified for and want the responsibility of being a city councilor. As a member of multiple civic and university boards and committees, an Iowa City Climate Ambassador, and the founder-director of Corridor Community Action Network, I demonstrate Iowa City's strategic values in my daily life because they are my own core values. In fact, CCAN's mission statement encompasses those same values of social justice, racial equity and human rights, climate action, and partnerships and engagement. And the work that I've done there, the connections that I've made, and the lessons that I have learned can aid this council as we advance those same values while we work to realize the future visions outlined in that strategic plan. And those future visions are personal to me because they precisely describe the type of community that I have already been working to build, the kind that I know can change lives. 5 years ago, I was immersed in local services as a community member in need, utilizing DVIP, protective child care services, community food bank, while I navigated drastic and scary changes in my world. Now I'm passionate about using the networking and community building skills that come naturally to me to improve quality of life and make that kind of navigation easier for others. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to continue to do that as a city councilor. I have supplemented my natural skills by taking advantage of educational opportunities in areas such as city planning, organizational efficiency and effectiveness, budgeting, diversity, equity and inclusion, leadership, and communication. I also readily learn from others, and in addition to getting to speak with most of you, I've had recent opportunities to talk with Jeff, former Mayor Pro Tem Mazahir, Ross Wilburn, John Green, and Eleanor Levine, and I learned valuable lessons in each one of those conversations. I particularly appreciated what everybody had to say about the budget, which is an especially big concern when we're facing the kinds of challenges we are, such as the loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxable value. As a community organizer, evaluating which efforts will provide the most impact for members of our community has been a daily consideration of mine for years. I was really happy to see so many of you mention affordable housing, because you're absolutely right. As a renter, I can contest that it is one of the most critical issues that is facing our community. And in addition to passing the proposed affordable housing and eviction prevention funding, we do need to look at grants and other potential sources of revenue, because that is an area in which the need continually outpaces the means. And I would also like to see us spend more than $30,000 supporting the winter shelter. As we consider what adjustments we need to make, where we can save, and where we need to invest city dollars, another project that's going to be important for us to implement this year is the recreation center renovation that's detailed in the capital improvement plan. Those renovations will bring the center into closer compliance with current ADA standards. We also need to talk about what would take to bring it into complete compliance, and the ADA elevator improvements that are scheduled for 2025 should be moved up. Housing and accessibility are critical issues of equity that allow for and encourage an engaged and participating community. And I am really excited about the possibility of being able to work on those issues as a part of this team. I've demonstrated my ability to do that and proven that I possess the critical skills necessary to work collaboratively in a group dynamic through my work with CCAN and the previously mentioned boards and committees. In my role in CCAN, I am constantly collaborating with community members and other local organizations to see how we can provide the most complete and unified services for people in our community. In my time as chair of the Iowa City Community Police Review Board, I guided us through the most complex and longest investigation in the board's history. As chair of the University of Iowa Safety and Security Committee, I have worked with the Reimagining Campus Safety Committee and the Dean of Students to determine where the two committees' missions overlap, where they differ, and how we can be of support to each other without stepping on toes or duplicating efforts. Both of those committees, as well as the Council for the Status of Women, on which I also serve, are university-wide, which provides a lot of opportunity for intra-organizational collaboration between the academic and healthcare sides of the university. This work requires me to constantly use and strengthen my collaborative skills in areas such as negotiation, flexibility, patience, and communication. And I am absolutely committed to using those skills to put in the hours weekly to attend and thoroughly prepare for city council meetings, joint entity meetings, other board meetings, as I know that liaison duties are also part of this job. And doing the full preparation and the late night hours that are required for that, associated research, all of that. I'm also prepared to spend the time in the community at community events representing the city, and events that I would probably be participating in anyway, to be quite honest, and with communicating with stakeholders and residents. The cross-section of support that I've been so honored to receive from this community has shown that I can put in the time to establishing and maintaining those types of relationships across the city. It also shows that people know me. I grew up here. I'm raising my children here. I have worked in the service industry here. I have owned and run a childcare business here. And I have worked in this community for years alongside organizations such as the Center for Worker Justice, the Domestic Violence Intervention Program, the Johnson County League of Women Voters, Community Transportation Committee, and so many others. And in that time, I have shown that I am willing to work hard for the people of this city, even when it is difficult, uncertain, and unpaid. And I would like to continue to do that in the most effective ways possible. My 15-year-old has said that one of the coolest things about me is that they've never known me to give up. I know that the job of a city councilor is difficult and unpredictable. I know that you get challenges and curveballs thrown at you at random. But I also know how to roll with the punches and veer to the next solution. I'm action-oriented, and I possess skills, connections, and a unique set of experiences that this council needs. I share this city's values and its priorities, and I'm here because I want to do everything that I can to make it the best that it can be for my children, my neighbors, my colleagues, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have our last individual come at this time, Elizabeth Miglin. Welcome.
Hi, Council. Formally, I would like to reintroduce myself to you all as Elizabeth Miglin, but you can call me Ellie. I'm honored to have made it this far in the nomination process and am humbled to be in a room of changemakers. As you may know, I am a third-year student at the University of Iowa studying international relations and earning a writing certificate in poetry. What you may not know, however, is why I've entered my name in candidacy for this nomination. When I entered my freshman year in 2020, it was surreal to find such a large town seem at once so small. Visions of college life were no longer so clear as I met many of my friends, teachers, and mentors rather awkwardly online and only able to recognize them by their eyes when we would meet in passing. It was with the same feeling of detachment that I initially approached my political interests. Throughout my time at Theodore Roosevelt High School in Des Moines, I had become exhausted with the all-consuming feeling of polarization. It was hard to watch as grown adults make poor attempts at talking civilly with family or simply with friends. This had me at a tipping point, so in college I decided to follow my hope and explore how other countries deal with much greater degrees of conflict with which we have been lucky to not experience here. This began my research into foreign aid for national development, civil conflicts, and their attempts at peace, and to now recycling practices in lower-income nations. However, as the former diplomat Richard Haas says, foreign policy begins at home. It was no sooner that I began to become oriented in Iowa City did my global interests appear to connect back around. I had noticed hints of this connection as a freshman in high school when I co-wrote and lobbied for mental health literacy funding in public schools with the Iowa Youth Council. However, the bill became stuck in committee due in part because the priorities in state education were predicated on federal support, which did not see this of great importance. This interdependence appeared once again in my senior year of high school as I spent part of my time as the policy director for the Iowa Youth Climate Strike. Leading a team of 10 of my peers, we created 18 Iowa-specific legislative suggestions which we used to guide rallies and events. As we chanted for change, it became obvious how much of the work begins on a grassroots level, on a local level. Between my French and microeconomic classes my freshman year of college, I decided to join Iowa student government and became quickly interested in the city liaison team. Their work to connect the student body to public services which support a thriving community made political action seem hopeful again. I recognize that considering the varied experience of my fellow candidates, selecting me for this open seat on City Council would be an unusual decision, but I also think it would be a positive and progressive choice. While attending the bi-weekly City Council meetings for the past year and a half, I am proud to have briefed the Council on the concerns of ameliorate issues conveyed by the university student population. To the best of my knowledge, I've developed personal working relationships with Council and have collaborated with each current member on multiple initiatives. Through our partnerships, I increasingly understood the structure of city government and its authority as it relates to commerce, housing, and attracting new business. During this time, my co-liaison, Anna Van Huklum, Council, and I developed and funded 1,500 magnets with housing-related resources which were then distributed to Iowa City residents. This new approach has had lasting impacts, and you can still find them glittered around town. However, during our research with students, we realized these concerns could be addressed both by the city and the university. Thus, this previous summer, the new city liaison, Keaton Zymet, and I worked to revitalize the Lease Gap Housing Program, which offered an affordable option for over 30 students in need through the Iowa Memorial U-Union, as well as 100 free parking spots at Hancher Auditorium. Alongside our work towards affordable housing, our efforts have resulted in 2 generations of renters' guides, which surveyed around 600 and 700 students respectively, and help make any new renter make informed rental choices. As a 3rd generation is being developed, now Iowa State University and the University of Northern Iowa plan to conduct similar surveys. We developed a sexual assault awareness campaign in order to give voice to victims of violence off campus. We promoted sustainable transportation with the Bicyclists of Iowa City at multiple sustainable open house events. We provided email templates for students and Iowa City residents who wished for the police department to provide more information about an incident of police brutality. We then worked with the police department and public safety to improve off-campus lighting conditions. We passed legislation in the University Senate rejecting carbon capture projects. The bill was then sent to the Iowa Utilities Board and Mid-American representatives. And in May, I was honored to be one of 6 from the university to attend the Association of Big Ten Students Conference in Washington, D.C. There we spoke to Iowa's federal representatives and senators about college affordability, food, housing security, and gender discrimination. I represent a large portion of our community that is currently underrepresented on the council. Our student population, which accounts for over 30K individuals in a community of approximately 75,000. The current concerns of younger generations are necessary for informing housing, environmental, and economic policies for Iowa City. If nominated, I hope to host meetings between the new city liaison team and landlords, city staff regarding alcohol harm reduction, and collaborate with council on sustainability initiatives, including amending ways the university policy can be altered to support these city goals. Other areas of my concern include citywide accessible mental health services, late night and Sunday bus routing, and access to basic needs. I believe that these are community problems that require community solutions. With multiple years of working between the city, university, and greater Iowa City population, I would like to contribute to solutions wherever possible for a community I love. The work is long, hard, and often unforgiving, yet I have not felt more empowered and invigorated to continue the work we have already begun together. It would be an honor to be able to continue working with the council to address these cross-city and university problems. Thank you for your time, council.
Thank you. I want to say again, thanks to all of the finalists that have come before us. There's a lot for this council to consider. Before we move forth, I wanted to speak to my fellow counselors right now to just let you know what the process will look like moving forth. So we will take a 7-minute break. That'll be number one. And during that time, I'm going to request that none of us speak with one another on any aspect of the finalist. This would allow you time to just regroup and get your thoughts together for the next phase, which I'm about to explain. So when we return, I am going to ask for nominations for finalists that you would like to see appointed. If if a applicant's name has been stated, you don't have to. You can just remain silent until we go around and get some votes. We're going to do, this is really informal vote, and it's a little confusing. So I'm going to try to explain it in the best way that I know how. So we may do a couple of rounds of this. So first, I'm going to ask for nominations. And if there is a person that you would like to nominate, you can just state out their name. And if their name has already been mentioned, you can wait, and I'll close nominations. And then I'll go around and see let's say we have 3 names or 4 names, I'll see who supports them. Because we have to get to a majority of 4, we're going to keep doing that round until we get to 4. Now, I don't want you to feel like you have to change your position or like you can't select another finalist each round. At the end of the day, once we get to 4 is when we'll pause, and I'll make some statements at that point. Council will have opportunity to share some comments, and then our city attorney, Eric, will do the final votes, and that will be the official votes. When we take our 7-minute break, if this is confusing to anyone, this process, that will be the only allowable conversation that I will entertain by the counselors. This process, all right? We're going to take 7 minutes, and we will be back. Thank you. All right, we're going to get started with this next phase, which once again, council, I'm going to entertain nominations, and if the individual that you are nominating for appointment is selected, you can wait until all the nominations are stated, and then we'll go through and get unofficial votes for now. At some point, we do have to get to 4. And then there will be opportunities for people to change their votes, but we'll start with taking nominations at this time.
I'd like to nominate Mary Masher.
I'd like to nominate Andrew Dunn.
I'll nominate Mandy Remington.
I'll nominate Nali. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Ellie Miglin.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Sean McRoberts.
All right. All right, so everyone has made nominations. Would anyone like to change their nomination at this point? We have not reached a census of 4. We're going to go one more time. Entertaining nominations at this time. I will nominate Nali.
I'll nominate Mandy Remington.
Nominate Mary Masher.
I'll nominate Andrew Dunn.
Any other nominations at this time? Any other nominations at this time? Closing nominations. All right, so we have 4 nominations so far, and I'm just going to go, I'll start from my right to my left, and please state who of the nominated so far you would appoint. The 4 that are that have been stated is Nali, Mandy, Amanda Remington, Mary Masher, and Andrew Dunn. Harmson?
Dunn.
Taylor?
Masher.
Teague? Nali? Alter?
Andrew Dunn.
Thomas?
Andrew Dunn.
And Burgess.
Mandy Remington.
All right. Would anyone like to change their nomination at this time? All right. We will go another round. Accept the nominations at this time.
I'll nominate Andrew.
I'll nominate Amanda Remington.
Nominate Mary Masher.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Closing nominations. I'll start with, have I just been doing the same order? Harmson,
Dunn.
Taylor,
Masher.
Teague, Dunn, Alter,
Dunn.
Thomas,
Dunn.
and Burgess.
Remington.
Okay. We have reached 4 counselors for Andrew Dunn. And would anyone, I think at this point maybe because the majority will support Dunn, I think I'll just stop for council comments at this time, and then after which I will ask counselors if they want to change their nominations. Does that sound okay to people? All right.
Sounds good.
Council discussion.
I think I'll jump off if I could. Just wanted to again express the thanks to all 21 of the applicants, and especially to the 7 that made it here tonight as finalists. Obviously, with 1 position to fill and 21 applicants, there were going to be 20 disappointed people in our community. Tonight, with one spot to fill and 7 potential people, 6 disappointed people. But what I really hope is that for everybody, that this doesn't mark the end of your interest in civic participation and even looking at a spot on this council, but just the beginning. I think that we are so lucky. I've had the privilege of being able to read a lot of the emails in support of a variety of different candidates, and I've said the exact same thing to all of those people I've had a chance to respond to. This has been an embarrassment of riches. The quality of people who have stepped forward, many of whom I've gotten a chance to maybe meet for the first time through this process, some who I've known before. We're just incredibly lucky as a community to have people willing to step forward and do this job. And I would say that of the 7 people that were up here tonight, I would have enjoyed working with every single one of those people, and I can say that without hesitation. Not just enjoyed for myself, but also enjoyed seeing the work that they would do for this community. So I just wanted to make that point.
I'll just echo what my colleague, Councilor Harmson, said. This is a very difficult moment, and very, very grateful to everyone who put their name forward and took the time and put themselves out there in what I'm sure is an incredibly difficult situation to be in your seats right now. But I think that the city of Iowa City will be well served, and I hope that all of you continue to engage at any level that you are willing to serve our community, because it's very, very clear that you care deeply, and we would benefit tremendously from you continuing your engagement.
I echo what Councilor Burgess said, and I really appreciated seeing each of you in person this evening, and appreciate the fact that you came and were able to speak. 10 minutes isn't a very long time to be able to tell all your values, but certainly learn more about each and every one of you than the original application. Didn't learn a lot from that, except we were able to, each of us, narrow down the same 7. So I appreciate that, and also encourage each of you to continue your civic engagement, and thank you.
Yeah, I might just say that I've served on council now for 7 years, and this was probably one of the hardest decisions I've had to make. I'm not voting on an ordinance, I'm voting on an individual who's expressed a desire to serve on the council. And at the same time, I was just very impressed with all of you, as going back to the 21 applicants. I think what makes this decision a little bit easier is I know that you will continue to do your work and contribute, to the benefit of Iowa City. That's why you were one of my all of you were on my list in terms of finalists. So I was, I wanted to honor and reinforce the fact that you were doing significant work and contributing to our community and building community. So again, thank you for your decision to put yourself in the arena, and please continue to do the good work.
My fellow counselors have said so much of what I've been thinking already, but just this has been an incredible honor for us to be able to do this, a humongous responsibility, and a great opportunity too, in some ways. So I'm a little bit different in sort of what's going to come is first of all, I am happy to talk to any of you offline, out of the public eye. This has been it has to have been the most excruciating experience of having basically a public job interview. And to do it in a public forum is intense. And so thank you for your courage as well. I just want to give you very broadly a sense of where my thinking was, because I know that the number one thing, I've been in that shoes, why, right? What were you thinking? And so just very briefly, I just want to say all of you are strong and multifaceted in your particular approach and your perspective, and we would be so well guided to have any one of you on council. Where I came down to starting to think about things was simply to bring our experience and kind of our understanding of a council to date in terms of how best can we bring someone on to simplistically to fill gaps, to bring something to council that is not already here. How can our council make us more well-rounded and to bring more experiences that are not currently represented on there? So that was one of the questions that was helping guide me. So I don't know if that helps in the short or the long term, but also I just wanted to say thank you again for your courage among everything else for doing this. And if anybody, you know how to reach me, and I would be happy to have a coffee or something if you want to talk. And yeah. I just wanted to echo also what Sean said. This is just the beginning.
Thanks to all of the finalists here. And again, my colleagues said it well in their appreciation for all of you. This has been a very hard decision, especially when I literally know all of the finalists. With the respect to maybe just learning a couple of you through this process a little more. But overall, I have to say that our community would have been very advantaged with really any of your skills that you would have brought. This council has been, we put ourselves in a very hard decision-making position. I wanted to say some thank yous. Thank you to all of the candidates that had applied, all of the 21 that had applied. Thanks to, of course, the 7 that was promoted before us. I want to acknowledge our staff and all of their hard work in helping with some conversations to help guide us in this process, about the process. I want to acknowledge the community members that I spoke to that had thoughts about how this process should look and how it should go. And I particularly want to thank this council. All of you helped guide this process so that it would be the fairest, most transparent. And I know that it's been a difficult position that we chose to take. So thanks to each and every last one of you. At this time, I'm going to ask if anyone wanted to change their last position for nominations. Going once. Going twice. And I'm going to close that part. And then we are now going to go with the official voting process for this council. Now we need to amend.
Right, and Mr. Mayor, there are 2 votes council will need. Of course, you've been provided in your packet a blank resolution as to, to get it on your agenda, but of course not knowing who the council would ultimately pick. So the first vote we would need is a motion to amend that resolution to include the name of Andrew Dunn. That would be followed by a voice vote. And then it would be followed by a motion and second for the resolution, now amended, and that would be a roll call vote.
Say that last part again, because
Certainly. After, assuming the council votes to amend the resolution
Yes.
to include the name of Andrew Dunn, then we would need a motion and second for the resolution now amended to include the name of Andrew Dunn.
Got it.
And that would be a roll call vote.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to amend the resolution to include the name of Andrew Dunn, please?
So moved. Alter.
Second, Thomas.
Moved by Alter, seconded by Thomas. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as amended with Andrew Dunn's name. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved,
Or,
Thomas.
actually, yeah, I still
Yeah,
need a
that's right,
motion.
yeah.
Yes. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Harmson.
Moved by Thomas, seconded by Harmson. Roll call, please.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes?
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. All right, could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved. Alter.
Second, Burgess.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And I want to talk about next steps before we adjourn as far as the appointment. When do we?
Well, we need to swear in Mr. Dunn, and that could be done now. It would probably be best before we adjourn or at the beginning of the, well, it'd have to be either now before we adjourn, I would recommend that, or at the beginning of the informal work session to begin.
Yes. I guess the question is, are you ready to be sworn in? All right, great. We're going to invite our city clerk, Kelly Fruling, up, as well as Andrew Dunn, to be sworn in as the next city councilor.
I, Andrew Dunn, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties of the office of council member at large
in Iowa City, Johnson County, Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law.
After he signs that, we'll invite him to take a seat up here with us. And you'll get your first official vote. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dunn, seconded by Harmson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned. Thanks again.
Should probably pull up that agenda. Oh, geez, packets.
Today is January 10th, 2023, and this is the City of Iowa City work session. And we're going to start with our first agenda item, which is clarification. Well, one, let me say again, welcome to our newest city councilor, Andrew Dunn. Super excited to have you join us. And I'll just say, for myself, willing to help you through this process, as I know all our other counselors are as well. We're going to just jump right into the agenda, which is clarification of agenda items, which is for our formal agenda that starts at 6 p.m. Hearing nothing, we're going to go to info packet discussions. December 8th. December 15th, info packet. December 22nd, info packet. December 29th, info packet. January 5th, info packet.
Just as far as the list of upcoming items for work session discussion, is that something we can?
Absolutely. So you can pretty much state if you want to add something and see if we can get 3 or more counselors.
Just given the joint entities meeting last night that I know several of us also attended, just taking our temperature for adding the lost discussion relating to childcare to a work session in the near future or not.
I would be in favor of that. I would also very much think it would benefit us to take Lisa Williams and Matt up on having a representative or them to come to answer questions and do a deeper dive. So I would be in favor of that, but yes, with having some representation from the school board to answer questions.
I would agree with Mayor Pro Tem on that because they just had a wonderful presentation, the slide presentation.
We can't get into details, but
Oh, okay.
yes.
But so that's, I would agree with that, we would need that.
Okay. I saw a bunch of shaking of heads in mine as well, so we'll put that on a future work session.
Yeah, some information that's not on this work session topic list yet. So January 24th, we tentatively are planning to bring an executive session to you as well. And then on Saturday, you indicated an interest in continuing the budget discussions on January 24th. So if it's okay with you, we'll skip January 24th. On February 7th, you had previously requested a presentation from local mental health providers, and we have lined that up for the 7th. That can probably be moved, but if you're comfortable delaying further, we could invite the school district to the February 21st. I just want to get your sense of how far is too far out for the school district conversation. Unless you wanted to try to do them both on the 7th, but those are two fairly significant topics.
I think one of the things they talked about last night was urgency, but at the same time, some of that's going to hinge on what the legislature does, and I'm wondering if by the 21st we might not have a little bit clearer picture which may help us. I don't have a real strong opinion on that, but if we decided to wait till the 21st, that might be one check mark in the column that.
What I might suggest
February.
is that we don't nail down the date now. We understand the urgency, and then maybe Mayor Pro Tem and City Manager Office can determine when the best date is. We'll just put it on the agenda, knowing that there is some urgency with the timing.
And I would just ask, I think in the list that we have as far as what we were considering wasn't just for the school district element. I would think it is important that we have a conversation about lost more generally, and knowing that the school district's request was for 10% of the whole, or 20% of the 20% of the whole. If you think of the 50% we could use, what do we want to do? What might we want to do or prioritize with that? And I think I personally would request just some general information about lost, even just some reading ahead of time to make sure we're all on the same page as to how it works.
Okay. All right. We will get something figured out. Any other items? We're going to move on in our agenda. University of Iowa student government updates. They're not here. They were here earlier, and we probably should have made clarification that
I probably thought we were done.
we're going to come back to this, but no worries. We'll still get some updates that will filter, I would imagine. Finally, council updates on assigned boards, commissions, and committees.
Just ever so briefly, we just had a City of Literature board meeting this morning and had a wonderful presentation from one of the members on the translation degrees that are available, both undergrad and graduate. And several graduates have won awards. If you go and you look at the books that have been given significant awards for their translation, a lot of them are UI grads. So it's just another component. The program is growing and is very robust and very well received. And it was just a really cool presentation. I have a slide deck on it if anyone's interested, but it was really neat.
I did have one question, Mayor, about what were Counselor Weiner's
Boards, assignments, and commissions,
do we
yes.
have a
Yeah, those will be on the January 24th meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I can lead into that too, because we recently had the Joint Emergency Communications Commission meeting, of which she served on that. She actually was chair, but it's a rotating chairship. So our last meeting, she was there, and of course she was thanked for her service for the number of years she was on that. But we had discussed how the appointment would go, how we would fill her seat. It was suggested the city manager, Jeff Fruin, because apparently city managers serve on it. And I talked to him about that, or it would be the mayor and that whole process where we appoint to the committee. So that was discussed at that meeting as far as how that seat would be filled. So also at that meeting, the focus was pretty much on the rollout of the 988, which they've been a big part of that. And I'm just proud of the work that our agency has done towards that. I think we're getting some information about how it's being recognized statewide as kind of the forefront of the conversion from the 911, or diverting it from 911 to 988. So we're again, Johnson County, Iowa City, on the forefront of doing things, and I'm very proud of that. That was all.
Any other updates on assigned boards, commissions, or committees? Hearing none, we are adjourned until 6 p.m. when we will start our formal meeting. Okay. It is just after 6 p.m. on January 10th, 2023, and this is the City of Iowa City formal meeting. And I'm going to ask for roll call, please. Should have did that first.
Alter,
Here.
Burgess,
Here.
Dunn,
Here.
Harmson,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Teague,
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
All right. Well, welcome to everyone that is in the audience and also those that are on social media. And we want to actually welcome our newest counselor, Andrew Dunn, who was just appointed earlier today. And we'll just give a round of applause of welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're going to go on with our agenda, which item number 2 is proclamations. And the proclamation 2A is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that each individual possesses the power of self-fulfillment, regardless of their circumstance, and that is the duty of all human beings to strengthen communities, alleviate poverty, and harvest the potential of all of us. And whereas Dr. King's dream of transforming the world into one free from discrimination and intolerance continues in the mind of millions and has not been forgotten since his devastating death on April 4th, 1968. And whereas Dr. King Jr. dedicated his life to promoting peace, freedom, and opportunity through nonviolent means, and whereas the teachings of Dr. King can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas there are numerous ways to show service and respect to others, such as volunteering at your local hospital, donating books and games to families in need, organizing a food drive in your school, volunteering at a senior center, and many others. And whereas the City of Iowa City joins with other towns and cities across the country in tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., now therefore I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 16, 2023, to be Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Iowa City and urge all to join me in the celebration thereof and to take this opportunity to reflect upon Dr. King's message of the principles of justice and equality for all. And to receive this is our Human Rights Commissioner, Roger Lucella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Iowa City Council, for this proclamation. I'm here today representing a group of people that serve on the Human Rights Commission and to accept this on behalf of all the work they do as well to better our community. My favorite quote by Dr. King is, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." The teaching of Dr. King's continue to guide us and inspire us in addressing problems that we see in our community today. The question usually is, what can I do to keep Dr. King's dream alive? So I have 10 simple things we can do to keep Dr. King's dream alive. Befriend someone different than you. Someone who does not look like you, talk like you, live like you. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Number 2, pay attention to social issues in our community today. Find the one that makes you pause and do something about it. Do not ignore community issues that make you uncomfortable. Face it. Number 3, serve others. That's all we all here to do. Number 4, lead by example. Number 5 is have faith in humanity. That's what a lot of our nonprofits that are represented here today do on a daily basis. Number 6, diversify your reading list. Diversify your movie list. Diversify the places you eat, the places you shop. Read a book by a Black author. Watch a movie by a Black director or Black cast members. Visit a Black-owned establishment. We have plenty in Iowa City here. Number 7, be an ally. Don't just say you are, actually be one. Number 8, support organizations that advance equal rights. We have many in Iowa City. Find the one that feeds your soul. Number 9, practice inclusiveness in your everyday life and the places you work or play. And number 10, volunteer and give back. Those are the way we can advance and keep Dr. King's life, our dreams alive. And for Martin Luther King's Day on Monday, we have a great event taking place. We invite all of you guys. We're going to have a unity march starting Eastdale Plaza at 9:45. We're going to walk all the way to Mercer Park, where they're going to be all kinds of activity and speakers from our community leaders and the leaders in our Black community. So we invite you all to join us, and there'll be food. Supervisor Porter's cooking walking tacos, so you are all invited. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. So could I get a motion to approve our consent agenda, items 3 through 8?
So moved. Taylor?
Second.
Sorry, go ahead.
Moved by Taylor, seconded by Burgess. All right. Would anyone from the public like to discuss a topic that is on our consent agenda? Whether on person or online? All right, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Dunn.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to accept correspondence for item 8A?
So moved. Done.
Second, Burgess.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, community comment time. This is an opportunity, which is item number 9. This is an opportunity for individuals within our community to come up to speak about any item that is not on our agenda. You'll be provided up to 3 minutes. There is a sign-in sheet that we ask people to sign in, and when you address your comments, please state your name and the city you're from. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Brandon Ross. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome, Mr. Dunn. I supported you in your previous run, and if I had another rhyme, I would use it. I would like to reiterate points that I think are important for this coming year. One would be increase affordable housing. I think that we don't have enough. We have something called a housing market. Nobody knows what it is. Landlords can just raise rent to whatever they want, and the city has usually very little to say about that, but I'd like that to change. I would like the homeless shelter to be expanded, the program for the homeless shelter. I think we can do better. We have too many homeless people. Our economy is not great. Homelessness is growing, so that's a good thing to do. I would say that transportation could be increased, Sunday transportation. I mean, people who don't have cars, and that's a lot of people, they can't get around. So if they have jobs and things like that, they can't get to them on Sunday, and that's an economic problem. They should have the right to be able to do that. And to encourage further transportation use, kiosks are very helpful, and benches. If we can fit it into our budget to make bus stops a little bit more livable, people are oftentimes out in the cold or the very hot. They're taking a bus. You know, those who are healthy in the middle years are usually good, but the elderly, the handicap, those people need to have access. And then handicap accessibility could always be improved. The man who came before me and spoke has said some beautiful things, and I couldn't possibly even approach what he was getting into when it comes to Dr. Martin Luther King. who I'm honored to say went to the same university as I did. Boston University was one of his places. I would say that Martin Luther King, when I like to think about him, I think about some of his last speeches and his speeches against the Vietnam War. He was against that. He believed that basically wars in general did not help the people. They helped the oligarchs, those who had the money, and people made money. Like today, our military arms industrial complex makes money, like Raytheon and Boeing, and they just make hand over hand no matter who we go out to. And Dr. King was very pointed about this. He was not soft-spoken in this area, and I respect him with all my heart in this area. And with this in mind, I would like to please encourage people to write your Congress people and the President to call and demand negotiations for a war that is very dangerous that's going out in Ukraine. Basically, what you have is a 9-year civil war, Eastern Ukraine versus Western, and now it's the U.S. versus Russia. Please do contact. Also, about reading new books, I got one. How the West Brought War to Ukraine. Please read this. It's 90 pages. I'm taking a few extra seconds. I'll let them back sometime later. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else like to address council?
Hi, Council.
Welcome.
So just a couple announcements. The university will be starting its spring semester next Tuesday. And also, the student government this semester will be going to the Iowa Capitol to meet with representatives and help pass the renter's checklist. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you can just state your name for the record and the city you're from.
Keaton Zymet, Iowa City.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Pam Michaud, live in College Green Historic District for 32 years. And I've been thrilled to note 3 houses have changed ownership out of the 16 in the last few years. There's young blood and families with actual children. And the third but not least is the Catholic Worker House that moved next door at 113 South Johnson, across the alley from my house. Very welcome because they provide needed housing for recent immigrants from any source, but generally they seem to be devoted to Central American refugees. So unfortunately, there's no one in the house that is bilingual. So I can't be a good neighbor and take stuff over there. And they don't have COVID shots. But anyway, what has changed in the last year from rental housing is that the directors of the Catholic Worker House have expanded their mission to a third of eastern Iowa. So as of the last 3+ weeks, over Christmas, over blizzards, people have driven a 2-hour commute or 2-hour distance from Wapello, Henry, Louisa, all kinds of counties far away to have English assistance to apply online or in paper for COVID relief checks. Some of these people have been very hard workers at Tyson and those kinds of food companies. They deserve the checks, but when they come from a long drive during a blizzard, you know, when the chill factor is 30 below, they need a parking space, and they don't have it. So they're looking desperately for, where do I park? This is supposed to be a public facility. It's not. It's an office, a house converted into an office now. So as of my count, there were at least 50 applicants per day for the last 15 days. All except Christmas. They've been running all except Christmas. So the director that helped purchase the house and got donations, that's fine, but they need to respect the neighbors that have been there for a minimum of 32 years, up to 57 years. And so just having a historic district doesn't mean you're special, but it is a residential neighborhood. Some rentals, but not offices. And I would urge planning and zoning to have a little bit of accountability here as far as enforcing zoning issues, because we all have rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address any item that's not on our agenda? Anyone online? All right, seeing no one, we're going to move on to item number 10, which is planning and zoning matters. And I will go with 10A, zoning code amendment, solar and climate action ordinance. This is an ordinance amending Title 14 zoning code to enhance land use regulations related to solar energy systems and further climate action goals. I'm going to open the public hearing. All right, and we're going to welcome Danielle Stitzman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Danielle Sitzman, Neighborhood and Development Services. This is a zoning code amendment before you tonight. As a little bit of background, just to walk you through how we got to this point with this amendment, just a refresher, which I'm sure you don't all need, but the city has an investment in, through its comprehensive plan and multiple other plans over the years in climate action, adaptation, and addressing energy and energy use. The most recent study was a solar feasibility study that the Johnson County Clean Energy District presented to staff, encouraging the city to take yet again another look at our solar ordinances to make sure that we're doing everything we can and nothing that's making implementation of photovoltaic solar energy systems difficult here in Iowa City. So what you have before you tonight are the proposed code changes based on a re-review of our current ordinances, basically trying to make sure that what we are encouraging is clear in our code language and not a barrier to installation of photovoltaic solar, both in residential situations and commercial. As I said, this is not something new. The city does allow solar, has for quite some time, has taken a look at our solar ordinances over the years. This is yet just another chance to take a fresh look at it through the eyes of others. Our current regulations basically regulate those systems as mechanical systems. It's not the clearest way to state something. If you're going to go look in a code book for help, if you're a homeowner, you're probably not going to type in mechanical systems. I want a mechanical system on my roof. So we were trying to be more transparent, use wording that was more common, and really make it clear that we were encouraging solar in every way that we could. You may recall in 2019 we had another code update addressing utility scale ground-mounted solar, not rooftop, but things that were operating more as a utility, very large in scale, and generating electricity in that way. We do also have a streamlined process already in place in our historic and conservation zones, basically allowing for a staff review instead of a historic Preservation Commission review in those instances. And if you go back a little bit further in time, we streamlined our building permit process to standardize that with the way other jurisdictions are reviewing and permitting solar systems. So as I said, these amendments are really pretty minimal, just trying to add and clarify definitions, limit any regulatory barriers to solar energy that we have, and provide, in addition to those two things, some additional incentives to encourage solar where we can. As far as the definitional changes that I mentioned, they are fairly minor. They're just adding actually the wording solar energy systems in a lot of ways to make the code more searchable, explaining that's what we meant all along by mechanical structures. That hasn't, we think, been a real detriment to people who have made applications. It may just not have been as inviting as it could be for folks who were considering this and just couldn't find themselves in the code. As far as removing potential regulatory barriers, these are things that we were not blocking solar in the past, but it wasn't perhaps as clear as it could be. The solar systems didn't need to comply with maximum heights, that they were considered integrated into the building by simply being on the roof. Removing some of the wording about screening requirements. Obviously, you don't want to screen the sun away from a solar array when you're wanting to encourage that. Removing the concealed from public view requirement for roof-mounted solar. if you can recall far enough back, solar was kind of a new and different thing when it first was being implemented decades ago. Anymore, it's more of a normal and customary thing. And so a lot of the code language was maybe put in place in the very early days of addressing solar and no longer needs to really be there. It's not something that is a negative externality for neighborhoods to have, and what, as I said, the city is really looking to encourage. We did also add some minor modification language that allows for additional flexibility for review of truly unique and odd circumstances if they should come up. The minor modification process is a process that already exists in our code for changing some zoning standards in just a little bit of a way, depending on what they are. We do that with setbacks and heights and some other things. So this is just adding solar to the ability to request a minor modification from staff if they have a particularly unique circumstance that needs another look at it. Also, it includes the prevention from private covenants, deed restrictions, from restricting solar in neighborhoods. Oftentimes, a homeowner will find out the city is perfectly okay with their solar array, but their homeowners association has language that would block that. This wouldn't be retroactive, but would work on any new covenants going forward. As I mentioned, we also wanted to include voluntary regulatory incentives to encourage solar for folks who are maybe not thinking about it, or when they are thinking about it, it doesn't pencil out dollars-wise. We wrote in some incentives allowing additional density and reducing parking, knowing that both of those things either help the bottom line or remove a cost. Parking is a cost, and so if we can offset some costs, those costs can be invested into solar instead. The packet does include some examples of how that would work out. There's a series of bonuses that can be acquired depending on the system. So we think this addresses gaps in the city's code, makes it clearer. There are some potential trade-offs for the fee and lieu system, but we really took a look at things that were marginal and we thought would be a good trade-off. So overall, this is an amendment if we've considered it to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the city's climate action goals to reduce carbon emissions. As this is simply a zoning code amendment. It's coming to you from the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. Once adopted, we would simply apply this to our existing permitting processes. So based on a review of the relevant criteria, best practices, and consultation with the city's sustainability staff and the Johnson County Group, staff does recommend the proposed code amendment to enhance the land use regulation related to solar energy systems and to further implement the city's goals related to climate action. At their December 7th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission concurred with staff's opinion and voted 6-0. Happy to answer any questions.
Just a quick question, Danielle. I had heard once that you couldn't install solar panels on the side of a residential roof facing the street because they were visible. So does the language that says solar panels are exempt from this, would that take care of it?
Right, that would.
Okay, thank you.
Danielle, I had one concern I have, and hopefully it can be quickly answered, is on the providing the regulatory incentives. Will they in any way, I'm not quite sure how to put it, but you know, I think we want to try to incentivize affordable housing, you know, with, say, like potentially eliminating parking minimums when we're looking at affordable housing units. If we provide such waivers for, you know, solar, is there any conflict with that? I mean, you only have a certain number of parking spaces one can waive. If they're waived for solar, that seems like it might conflict, or at least potentially conflict, with waiving them for affordable housing.
So there's only so many levers we can pull, and we've pulled that lever for affordable housing. I guess it's the same lever. We would be pulling it for a developer that might not choose to do affordable housing, but might choose solar. So we're never going to get everything with one thing, but we want to make it as another option. So yeah, eventually parking will be something that is no longer as an effective lever to pull, but I think every development could be slightly different in what they're trying to accomplish, and so a commercial not residential, but a commercial business might choose the parking reduction for solar, and they wouldn't have that option for affordable housing. So it's just another option.
Hearing no other questions, thank you. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If anyone is online, now is the time as well to raise your hand online. All right, before I close this public hearing, Council, are you inclined to vote with P&Z? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Alter.
Council discussion?
I greatly appreciate the cleanup for searchability. I think that's glad we're being aware of that kind of thing.
Yes.
And updating to make it so to reflect better that norms have changed as well. So
I'm pleased that it's encouraging an incentive for the affordable housing aspect of it too. That's an option. And solar. We've been trying to encourage developers to be in line with our climate control plan, and I think this will help that.
Roll call, please.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 11 is conveyed sanitary sewer easement. Resolution approving the conveyance of a private sanitary sewer easement to Metro Pavers, Inc., adjacent to Lot 1, Metro Pavers First Edition. I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome Jason Havel.
Good evening. Jason Havel, City Engineer, here to give you a little bit of background for this item. So for those of you that are maybe not familiar, this site is located on Southgate Avenue, the west end of Southgate Avenue between Gilbert Street and the river. Metro Pavers has gone through the subdivision process. They're looking at a proposed building on the site. With that, there would be a sanitary sewer service as well as a water service that would be needed for that, which is typical. And often what happens is those are extended from the building into the right-of-way where they tie into the city's main. In the drawing here, you can see that's exactly what's happening with their water service. So they're going from the building to the existing water main that's located within the Southgate Avenue right-of-way. What makes this site a little bit unique is that you can see the right-of-way, which is that dashed line that sort of encompasses Southgate Avenue, ends just west of their driveway. And the green line, in the green dot, is our sanitary sewer and a sanitary sewer manhole. And that extends just west of the right-of-way onto private property, but in this case is a city lot. And so in order for them to tie into that manhole, which is where we would like them to tie into, and it's typical, they would need a easement from the city to install that on city property. And so that's what is in front of you, is an easement to allow them to tie their private sanitary service into our sanitary sewer main. As we look at this area, this is an area where we anticipate that in the future, the right-of-way would be extended, likely for a cul-de-sac or other turnaround in this area. This property also already has existing easements on it, so it really shouldn't be any issue to add to that. But because of that, and I guess the other thing I would point out is once this does become right-of-way, that easement would go away because we don't have easements in right-of-way. It would be an allowed use at that point. So because of that, it is proposed not to have any fee charged for this easement, but basically just to grant them the easement to allow them to install this sanitary sewer service. So that's what I got. If you have any questions, happy to answer those.
This is a really basic question because I recognize it on the inset, but where specifically what buildings are those? Not the
So-
proposed, but the actual, where the proposed, is that the 3M? No.
So are you asking kind of where that location is at?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm completely discombobulated.
This lot actually goes, there's kind of that, I call it a small lake area there just east of the river. That the lot actually extends all the way up to Highway 6 behind Hills Bank and that kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. It just,
Sure, yeah.
I was not acclimating myself. Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you. Seeing no one, before I close the public hearing, is council inclined to vote on this? All right. going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Dunn.
All right. And council discussion. Roll call, please.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 12 is discrimination against Section 8 tenants. Ordinance amending Title II entitled Human Rights, Chapter 1, entitled General Provisions to eliminate the prohibition on landlords discriminating against housing choice voucher holders. And this is second consideration. Could I get a motion for second consideration, please? Could I get a motion for second consideration?
So moved.
Moved by Burgess,
Second by Alter.
seconded by Alter. All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think this is, from a purely logical standpoint, I think city staff and city attorney's office has done a wonderful job of identifying things that legally, because of the action in Des Moines, that we cannot enforce this that's on our books. And, you know, it's very clear from our earlier discussions that everybody on this council is in support of having the ordinance being enforceable, although we don't have that power. Because the world isn't always a purely logical place, I find myself, the more I've thought about this and just understanding we're now at an inflection point where we might see some landlords decide to yank housing for people. We're at that point in time where they're starting to be able to. I just don't feel comfortable supporting this at this time, although I realize it's just a symbolic act. I wish it was more than that. But I think maybe that symbolism does have some value for the people who might be in the coming, hopefully not. Hopefully this will be a moot point and we'll find out that it's a moot point. But if somebody, a family is seeing that, I just hate having, even though it's symbolic and it logically makes sense and it doesn't actually have an impact, it just feels wrong to me. So I will not be supporting this particular one this time around, and that's my reasoning why.
I will say that this certainly isn't something that I feel happy to, that's before us. And as you mentioned, the state has kind of made it mandatory, where cities don't, landlords have the right to not accept housing vouchers. And while none of this council supports, this action, I also believe that, we have to uphold the law. On some levels, I think there's other ways to try to help individuals within our community, although, it becomes a challenge when you're talking about landlord, their desires, and what the heart of this community needs, which is more affordable housing. So because this is the law, and I recognize that really there is nothing that we can do against this, I will vote in favor of it. But I wish this wasn't before us.
Amen to that.
I raised a similar objection during the first hearing with a question as to, would this potentially have any hold any difficulties for us? And city attorney and city manager themselves reluctantly but clearly explained why this could become problematic. And so, Sean, I applaud you and I agree with you. I think that for us to have the clearest path in terms of what the city's position is in accordance with the state as it's mandated, I'm not okay, but okay with supporting it, simply for the running of the city in the way in which it needs to.
As a point of clarification, the thing is, the state mandate is we can't enforce it, but there's no law that says we have to change our code at any particular point in time, is there, or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you're right. I mean, the state law indicates that any such ordinance would be unenforceable as it relates to the housing choice voucher subsidies. And so that's why we were surgical in removing just that and leaving in all the other anti-discrimination provisions in the ordinance and so forth. My concern, as I articulated at the last meeting when this was discussed, but perhaps for the benefit of Councilmember Dunn, was that, years from now, it might be the case that we've lost some institutional memory or knowledge that this provision currently on the books, if it were to remain on the books, is unenforceable, and we would thus give some answers to members of the public indicating that it is enforceable, and that could create some problems for us and potential liability for us, and so that's one of the reasons why I think it would be best legally to clean it from our books.
And I think that makes real sense. I think one of my concerns and my fears is, and I think the idea that this could cause confusion down the road is, I think you're almost certainly correct in that analysis. My confusion is right now, because we're at that inflection point, that if we repeal this as a council, it will cause confusion in the other direction. And if, God forbid, there are landlords that are willing to kick poor people out on the street, I do not expect them to be the kind of people to, in good faith, explain, well, who allowed this to happen? And they'd be more than happy to throw us to the wolves, so to speak. Say that this is something we did, and there'll be stories about the fact that the council passed this, which there should be. And I'm sure the stories will explain the nuance of this decision, which you're all completely correct on. I'm thinking this is just not the right time. I would be absolutely happy to, think about this more between now and the third reading, and maybe even think about pushing this off a little ways until we see exactly what happens here in our community. Now that this is the new law just took effect 10 days ago. I just think it's real close, and by, being proactive on this is normally I would be 100%, I am applauding that, our city staff being on top of this. I think that's admirable. And I just think this is a unique situation where we could be seeing some people in dire straits, and I do not want to confuse them thinking that we were in favor of what could potentially happen to them. My hope is a few months down the road, we're going to have a much clearer idea of how this change in the law is going to impact our community. And at that point in time, if there's no problem, then I'll have no problem. So that's what I'm coming. And I think, by the way, those of you that are supporting it, I think you're doing so for all the right reasons, and your reasons make sense to me. I just can't personally go along with this at this time.
I will say that there has been, some information about this out there, both with landlords and with some renters. And the renters is very clear that this was a state. I mean, these are some immigrant individuals that very clear that this is a state thing, that this is not a city desire, but we unfortunately have to fall under that law. So while I do understand your fear, I don't believe that it manifests in a great deal, not to say that some people won't misunderstand it. And those that are advocating and helping individuals with any of this type stuff, they're very clear on saying this is a state thing and realizing that it's the law. So that's why I feel comfortable folding forward. And yeah, so I just wanted to at least make a statement there. Any other comments?
I'd just like to express that I think I'm falling in the same place as Councilor Harmson. From the conversation that we've had here, I think I'd be more comfortable in waiting, and I don't plan to support at this point.
What about just simply deferring on this? If the idea is to wait, is there, in other words, is there an urgency in us making a decision on this now? If Councilor Harmson, you're just thinking it's something you might support in the near future, or?
Well, I think when we see what the reality of the situation is, we just don't know. It's just, like I said, this change happened in the law 10 days ago. I just feel more comfortable kind of wait and see how this shakes out a little bit before we move on this. Maybe in the meantime, we do have other initiatives we are doing, which is important for the public to know, to look at things like our rent, looking at things with our ARPA funds and our strategic plans to hopefully find some other ways to make help people stay in their homes, even if they are on rental assistance, maybe some, support for reluctant landlords, some assurances. So we are working as a city, and it's important, again, I say this for the public record, that we are looking at other alternatives to try and help our families as this new state law takes effect. I'm just this part of this because of the language and because I think the timing of it is just makes me uncomfortable, and I think that nobody on this who wants to vote yes for this is doing anything wrong because it's just cleaning up based on state law. But I think that right now it could be confusing and harmful and can create some confusion if we see a lot of people losing their homes at this time. I'm hopeful that that does not happen, that does not manifest, and in 6 months I'll be like, this doesn't seem to be an issue that we actually have. We now know we're a few months in. We now have some idea. And I know I will feel more comfortable at that point, assuming that we don't have a bunch of people discovering that they will be losing their homes simply because they're in need and need to use Section 8 vouchers. That's my concern. Like I said, everything else about this, I totally get it, totally makes sense. Everybody's coming from, staff and council members that support this, coming from doing the right thing on every other respect except for this one that sticks in my craw.
It sounds like maybe there could be a motion for a deferment, and I would suggest if there's a motion for deferment, I would put out a suggested date, September, somewhere in September. Our first meeting in September would be that date.
First meeting in September?
First meeting in September of 2023. That gives kind of the 6-month and actually beyond the 8-1 move.
Right, I was going to say beyond the midsummer lease shift that happens, which it's a whole other issue. But yeah, that date would make complete sense to me, and I think we would have a clearer picture that I would be either firmly in support or firmly against it at that point, just by knowing what the situation is here on the ground. Would you like that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we would need a motion. And then the date, if someone has a calendar.
September 5th.
September.
Did you say 5th?
September 5th. You're like Mayor Throckmorton. He always knew the dates.
I'm happy to put forth a motion that we defer this
The September 5th?
series of hearings and decision until September 5th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Moved by Alter, seconded by Harmson. Further discussion? I will just make mention that the next item is not related, although it may seem like it is, but it is two different beasts, or two different items.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I think I heard a motion in a second to defer to
Yes.
a date certain of September 5th. Did I miss the vote?
We did
No,
not.
we had discussion
Is that a
after
roll
the
call?
motion.
No, that would just be a voice vote. I was afraid
Okay.
that you were moving on to item 13. I just wanted to make sure.
No.
Okay, Sorry.
No. So we're just having discussion.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right. All in favor of deferment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to defer until September 5th, 7-0. All right, we are on to item number 13. Repeal of rental permit cap. Ordinance amending Title 17 entitled Building and Housing, Chapter 5 entitled Housing Code to repeal the rental permit cap provision. Staff is requesting expedited action on this item.
I move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Moved by Taylor,
Second, Thomas.
seconded by Thomas. Anyone from the public like to discuss this item? Seeing no one in person or online, council discussion?
I think I might as well just go ahead and step in it again. The reason because this has actually now been in effect for a couple of years. Unfortunately, this ability was removed from the city a couple of years ago. It has been in place for a while. I don't think that some of my concerns with the last one about confusion and where this is coming from, that period of time has elapsed, and so I will be supporting this one. because it accomplishes all those goals, which again, I agree with.
Roll call, please.
Teague,
Yes?
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
So moved. Done.
Second, Alter.
Roll call, please.
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item number 16, amending the budgeted positions in this, nope, what did I say? Oh, 14. I flipped pages. All right. Item number 14 is CPRB ordinance. Ordinance amending Title 8 entitled Police Regulations, Chapter 8 entitled Community Police Review Board to clarify a person who observes an incident on social media does not have the request personal knowledge to file a complaint, and this is a motion to give first consideration. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Teller, seconded by Alter. Anyone from the public like to discuss this topic? Seeing no one in person and no one online, council discussion.
I just think this makes common sense that we would require that rather than having a bunch of folks who've seen it on social media and profess to have knowledge of it.
Agreed. Yes. Roll call, please.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 15 is ARPA Shelter House Housing Stability Pilot Program. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a state and local fiscal recovery fund grant agreement with Shelter House to administer the Housing Stability Pilot Program. And could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Second, Alter.
And welcome Tracy Heishu.
Oh. Trying to get the slideshow. My buttons are not working. For the sign in? Okay. Oh, sorry. No, close it out. Yes. Thank you. As you can tell, I'm not an IT wizard. All right. Thank you. Tracy Heishu, Neighborhood Development Services. Excited to be here tonight to talk about the Shelter House Housing Stability Pilot Project. This is a great continuation of our work that we've done with local funding streams and our CARES CDBG funds to address housing stability. This is a ARPA-funded project or proposal. It also addresses the eviction prevention under the ARPA category of emergent needs. As you can tell, the request is for $1.13 million. Chrissy Canganelli from the Shelter House is also here to answer any of your questions. A little bit about the project itself. There's three main components. It is a 3-year program. Right now, the first one is coordinated entry, and this is a critical piece for us. They're funding. Right now, they're funding it locally. Those funds will run out. This will continue that coordinated entry piece for 3 more years. We rely on our housing choice vouchers. A lot of our programs are by wait list. Our mainstream and emergency vouchers are not. They're by coordinated entry. It's that continuum of care process where they staff and they interview clients, they take the phone calls, and they with a bunch of community service providers, determine the right level of housing intervention and make those referrals. This position will continue that for the 3 years. The second part is the housing stabilization services. So they'll hire 2 FTEs to continue to stabilize services. The housing navigation portion works with tenants to locate and secure housing. So anything that you need to do, arranging to see apartments, working with the landlords. They'll start RentWise again, which is a program that helps renters have success in all aspects of the rental experience. They'll offer 8 courses annually throughout the program duration. The program is not mandatory, but it is encouraged for all recipients. And both with activity number 1 and activity number 2, these services are offered all for residents of Johnson County and Washington County. The last piece that I'm really excited to talk about is the landlord risk mitigation. We've had this in our plan since 2016. This actually implements this fund. So you budget in your affordable housing fund $30,000 a year for risk mitigation. We've not been able to utilize this fund for this purpose until now. So what Shelter House will be doing is they will provide this fund. So for those clients that they're working with, and they might have different housing barriers, whether it's criminal history, poor landlord, rental history, whatever it is, it assures the landlord that they're working with that if there's excessive damages, loss of rent, or legal fees beyond security deposit, that they can tap into this fund and will pay for up to $3,500. We'll review this annually, since I said it's a 3-year program, and hopefully at some point we can expand this to all those all those landlords who accept our housing choice vouchers. This program is limited to Iowa City households. So since your affordable housing fund dollars, you'll have to be an Iowa City resident to take part in that. The last component is the eviction and prevention and diversion program. So this continues all our efforts to not go down that path of eviction. They'll hire 2 FTEs. Those specialists will work with applicants to apply for funds, to apply for different programs. They'll work with the coordinated entry specialist to get people housed. They'll provide that landlord-tenant education that is needed. They'll provide more outreach to landlords. They'll utilize the rapid rehousing funds to relocate households. This is also a continuation of their work with Iowa Legal Aid. During the pandemic, they started doing legal aid clinics at the Johnson County Courthouse to prevent evictions. So this continues that for the 3 years, and they'll also subcontract with Iowa Legal Aid to do those expungement clinics. Those are the 3 aspects of the program. Like I said, all of it will benefit Johnson and Washington County residents. Only the landlord risk mitigation funding will be limited to Iowa City residents. And I just wanted to note that the city is providing these services through a one-time allocation of ARPA funds. So while this project serves Johnson County and Washington County, once our 3-year funding commitment ends, to continue that level of service, we will need to approach other municipalities and other jurisdictions about continuing and funding this program so that we can continue on beyond our pilot project. And at that point, I think Chrissy Iyer can answer any questions that you might have.
I think I have questions just related to ARPA funds. So one, I think this is a great opportunity for our greater community, but for ARPA funds, it was my understanding that ARPA funds have to be used on Iowa City residents. When we talked about the partnership that we went in with the county, it was at least my understanding that we couldn't do ARPA funds outside of the city. So I want to...
No, I think there may be a difference, Mayor, between like a direct assistance program and really funding services. If you think about all the nonprofit grants we've done through ARPA, some of those services may be accessed by non-residents as well. I think this is in that same spirit, a little different than a direct assistance where we'd be providing direct financial assistance to someone outside of our community.
We can confirm, but it's the same thing with community development block grant. When you're talking about a public service as opposed to a direct benefit, you can provide, we fund all of our nonprofits knowing that they serve the county. So that federal program allows it. We'll confirm it, but I believe what Jeff is saying is correct.
Okay.
Tracy, I had a question about the Landlord Risk Mitigation Fund. You said that the hope would be to expand it to all the Housing Choice voucher recipients in the future, if it could be expanded. Can you just give us a sense of the scope of the current eligibility for the first 3 years, like number of people that would serve compared to adding in the Housing Choice voucher recipients?
Housing Choice vouchers without the emergency and mainstream voucher, you're talking about 1,200, 1,300 households. The people that are eligible for it, let me get back to that slide. So Shelter House, initially when we start this program, they assist any landlord that's going through that are getting rapid rehousing dollars, mainstream emergency vouchers, permanent supportive housing, nonprofits with supportive housing. Christy, you have any idea?
Okay. So it'd be a big expansion. That was my question. Okay.
We're waiting to see. So you allocate, right now it's 30,000 because you allocated $1 million based on that distribution formula. So each year when you go through that budget process, we would allocate another, let's say it stays at $1 million. Every year during that 3 years, they get 30,000. We're hoping that we don't go through that all, that fund money stays in there. So after tonight,
shelter house can request that funds, and they'll administer that program. We might use our inspector, so like if there's a claim for damages, we'd go out there just to inspect to make sure that it's a valid, the cost estimates are reasonable. So we'll commit some of our staff to doing that, but the referral is going to come from shelter house. Their properties would be eligible, so Cross Park Place and 501 would be eligible. However, for those claims, the city has to verify it just for transparency.
Thank you. That was going to be my other question, was how do we know these are sort of legitimate claims? So
They have to be
appreciate
verified.
that.
So
Yeah.
when Chrissy will have that education with all the nonprofit housing providers, that when they're placing tenants between our HQS inspection, or they'd have to take photos so we can make sure that the damages are done after they got in. And then we have send somebody out to verify those damages. So all damages have to be documented.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I'm going to phrase this very clearly, so bear with me. It sounds to me like, based when you were talking about eligibility, that these dollars essentially are their, let me start over. Do you have identified landlords that you're working with, or this is really based on those who have need, like the tenants, and then you're working with
I'll let Chrissy answer that.
landlords to see if you can incentivize those landlords, or are there landlords who are a priori saying, yep, we're in on this? I think I finally got my question out. Sorry.
For risk mitigation?
Mm-hmm.
So for risk mitigation, the proposal is that it be any landlord that's collaborating with us, partnering with us, and renting to these households. If there is a need in excess of the security deposit, that they would be welcome to reach out to this fund. So it's not necessarily the tenant, but it's the landlord. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering, in really basic terms, are there landlords identified who would be part of this pilot project? But it sort of sounds like it's a little bit working a little bit more fluidly than that. It's about sort of your network of landlords.
Right. So the first phase of our implementation of this is actually marketing this resource to those landlords. But it is, as Tracy said, right now, this component of the pilot is only eligible to those landlords that are in Iowa City. So any entity, any landlord that's renting to these households, we would be reaching out to them and telling them about this new opportunity, and that's kind of part of phasing in this first year, since it's so there's an educational component to it.
Have you found? I mean, it seems the existence of this piece seems to indicate that there is a need for it. So even though you already have a network of landlords who would be working with people who would need lower barrier entrance into housing, they still might have some hesitations.
So there's definitely a benefit to having this as a resource. As the preceding conversation about allowing to discriminate based on the source of using housing vouchers as a source of. So, from time to time, landlords had a bad experience with someone that either we have recommended through rapid rehousing or someone that has a housing voucher that we're working with. And if this is kind of that additional buffer to incentivizing them to rent to the next household, it's just really helpful for us. Any tool that we can add to this kit to continue to incentivize landlords, and also those tenants that we may be presenting, potential tenants that do have backgrounds, bad credit histories, bad rental histories. This is just something else that we can offer as a potential benefit to their taking a risk where they ordinarily would not have.
Thank you.
And that's all data that we want to be able to collect and then present also, and going forward to, argue for continuation of it and at what degree. Does that make sense?
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. Or the shelter house? All right. Seeing none. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If in person, please step forth. If online, raise your hand. Seeing no one, council discussion. Well, I'll jump right out there. So What I'll say is I can go a lot of ways with this as far as a person that is responsible for shepherding over the city funds and how do we really meet some of our strategic plans and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I can go through the budget and kind of nitpick and that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, if I truly believe that housing is a human right, and we have to get to a different level within our community, even though there is certainly funding beyond, one would argue, people would be recipients of this program beyond Iowa City residents. I think because of that belief that housing is a human right, I'm going to support this, even though I can go through and kind of make arguments for it needing to be a little more city focused, because 1.1 million is a lot of money that we're talking about from our ARPA funds. So I'm going to support this because I really believe housing is a human right, and we need this partnership with the Shelter House to get us to a different level. And this will be just one avenue that will help combat this complex. It's very complex. Housing is complex. This complex challenge that we have, and our strategic plan talks about housing, a lot. And so I'm going to support this.
Yeah, it does. We do focus a lot on housing, and it does have so many facets to it. And I think it looks to be a very well-designed program. I like the pilot aspect of it. It sort of gives an opportunity to tweak and refine and learn from the process as it kind of unfolds. So, yeah, kudos to everyone working on this. It's a really great program.
I like that it is working through incentivizing rather than it being, the carrot and the stick model. I think for a very long time in terms of looking at housing, and there's a real impulse to say you need to do this, and so do it, without there being much what's in it for me. And this this allows for sort of more of a partnership component, albeit, yes, cash on the barrelhead, but it really is about saying there's a benefit. You will have your units occupied. We think it's worthwhile. And I think that over time, that incentivizing model can have a lot of benefit overall about how people understand, developers, landlords, et cetera, understand the need for a range of different models for housing, particularly affordable, because certainly a more restrictive one has not proven to work all that well. So I like this very much. Thank you.
I would echo the thoughts of other counselors and also just point out, I think, something that was already said. I think it functions as a good response, a positive response to, actions of state government, incentivizing people to potentially get rid of people who are lower income and struggle with housing affordability. So I would support this as well.
I support this also, especially since it funds the full-time employees, because, as we all know, the Shelter House has its hands full with its basic duties as it is now, and so to have persons particularly responsible and being paid to overshadow this program is helpful.
All right. Roll call, please.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Now we're on to item number 16. Amending the budgeted positions in the Support Services Division of the Police Department, Civilian Accreditation Manager. Resolution amending the budgeted positions in the Support Services Division of the Police Department and the Confidential Administrative and Executive Pay Plan by adding 0.5 FTE Civilian Accreditation Manager position, grade 24. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Thomas?
Moved by Thomas, seconded by Don. And we're going to welcome Chief Liston.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dustin Liston, Chief of Police. The Iowa City Police Department has been accredited by CALEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, since 2002. We've received 7 accreditation awards. We're in the middle of our 8th. And that position, the duties of keeping us accredited is currently assigned to a full-time sergeant. He has a couple of other duties, but he's going to be retiring in a couple of weeks. And if you remember in 2020 on the city manager's plan to restructure the police department, one of the plans was to civilianize that position, to create a part-time civilian accreditation manager. And this is just requesting permission for that position.
Any questions for the chief? Hearing none. Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? And if you're present, please come forth. If online, seeing no one, council discussion.
Well, I'd first like to compliment you, Chief, and I know it was previous to your assignment to that position, but the 7 accreditation speaks a lot for your department and how well it's been run and how they've functioned in our city.
I foreshadowed some of this on Saturday in our discussions, but I'm not going to support adding a halftime position in the police department. I appreciate the need to centralize the duties into a civilian position, but I still am looking for the shift and not increasing the overall budget.
Roll call, please.
Dunn.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Burgess.
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Item number 17 is amending the budgeted positions in the Support Services Division of the Police Department, Lieutenant position. Resolution amending the budgeted positions in the Support Services Division of the Police Department by deleting 1 full-time sergeant position, grade 29, and adding 1 full-time lieutenant position, grade 30. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Second, Alter.
And we're going to welcome Police Chief Liston back.
Thank you. Dustin Liston, Chief of Police again. This is in line with the last item. The sergeant that we're replacing with the part-time accreditation manager, we'd like to change that position to a lieutenant position, and that person would become the professional standards position, which would essentially be an internal affairs investigator. The current process for internal affairs for the Iowa City Police Department is incoming complaints get assigned to a watch commander who is in charge of a shift of officers. He or she does the investigation and then forwards it up the chain of command. Those investigations are very time consuming, can take upwards of 40 to 60 hours. And while that person is doing that, they're not really able to supervise their shift as well as we would prefer them to be able to. So this will clear them up to supervise their shift, as well as provide a little consistency in the process. It'll be one person that will be doing those investigations, and I think it'll really add the professionalism of the position.
Hearing no questions, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand online or come forth. Seeing no one, council discussion.
I just want to lend support to this, actually, because one of the things that I know has been talked about before I came onto council, and that was and continues to be an incredibly important point of contention and of tension in public and police circles, is about mentoring and getting police training that they need and support so that they are, making right decisions. And so I think that apart from the fact of having a centralized investigatory internal affairs person, which makes a lot of sense to me, that to allow the supervisors to actually oversee their shift, which, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of new hires in the past couple of years, some who have experience, but more who are less experienced, that having that kind of more hands-on ability to help work with younger officers, I think is incredibly important, and while it is still functioning within the police department, it is trying to help shift some of the psychology and some of the approach to policing so that people who have less experience can perhaps make better decisions. And so I'm in favor of this position to allow for the shift supervisors to do what they should be doing.
Yeah, I see this as an opportunity for some of those investigations and complaints that, is kind of now going to one person who isn't trying to do double jobs, in a way, really does lend opportunity for greater conversations, greater opportunities to get to some interactions that really do change the dynamics of some of the things that this community want within our police department. And so I do support this because I think it is that move forward. While I know that there is a lot to be said about what we would like to continue to see as far as the more of the civilian opportunities within our police department, but I think that this is critical for just keeping those professional standards and expectations of this community in line. Hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
No.
Dunn.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. Item number 18, Police Department Mental Health Liaison, resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Community Crisis Services for law enforcement liaison support. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Second, Taylor.
All right. Moved by Dunn, seconded by Taylor, and we're going to welcome Police Chief one more time.
Dustin Listen, Chief of Police. We already have an agreement with Community that provides us with one mental health liaison. This is another agreement that will just expand our coverage to 2. It's in line with one of the strategic goals. And by 2028, you all identified a goal of getting 24/7 coverage with our mental health liaison. So this will double it from 1 person to 2. So, and again, we would make sure they're working different hours. So instead of 8 hours a day, 5 days a week of coverage, we'd have 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. And by 2028, we hope to be able to have 24/7 coverage. But this is a step along that journey.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion?
I can't talk highly enough about this, and I'm very much supportive of it. I was one who talked about the need for our awareness of mental health issues, and which has led to our work session topic in February. It's just vitally, vitally important. I hear on the news all the time or through the grapevine about the suicide rate in the community, or just mental health issues, persons out there that need help. And it's time that the discussion come literally out of the closet, so to speak. It was such a under the rug, and people just didn't talk about it. It was such a terrible thing if a relative or someone you knew had mental health issues, and it's time that we do talk about it. And our state has not been helpful for funding for it, and so I'm just really proud that our city will fund this, and I approve of that.
I fully support this as well. I don't think it's a secret that we have some of the worst mental health, environment for care in the entire United States. And I think in line with the strategic goals, this does a good service to our community in addressing that concern.
I've been really grateful to see the work that Joa, the current mental health liaison, has been able to do in responding to some of these calls with our officers. I do have a question about budget impact I think probably for Jeff or for the chief. This is previously budgeted funds. This is not an addition. There's no additional budget impact, correct?
Correct. And we've secured 25% funding by the state, too, as well for the position.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
A little late. All right.
Progressing.
Any other comments by council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, we are on to items number 18, which is council appointments. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. We have about 5 appointments, I believe. And so we will take them one by one. So the first one is going to be the Board of Appeals, item number 19A. Board of Appeals, one vacancy to fill a 5-year term, January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2027. All right. And this is no gender balance, and there was only one applicant.
And he, I would approve of him being reappointed. He's currently on it, and he fits the qualification as far as being part of the Home Builders Association, which is one of the requirements. So I'm fine with Andrew Martin being reappointed.
I agree.
I think just as because he did have a full term before, but this is probably one of those boards where we don't have a lot of applicants, and so sometimes we do reappoint.
Well, we often reappoint to a second
Often for a second
term
one, yes.
anyway, so.
We often, well, I think my experience is we often reappoint if someone didn't serve a full term.
That's for sure.
Yes.
We also-
But
We
in
all-
certain, I mean, it varies in certain commissions and, where we don't, I think we try to, I'll use the term spread the love a little bit. The service love.
Right.
The service love, yes. All right. Now, we will, at the end, we'll kind of do each together if that's acceptable. All right. We're going to move on to 19B, which is Housing and Community Development Commission. Housing and Community Development Commission, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through June 30th, 2023. And there is no gender balance there. And we do have some people that applied.
I would nominate Kiran Patel for that.
I would support it.
I would go along with that. Also, I'm familiar with her with some other boards and commissions and items that she serves on, and she is always in attendance, and she follows through on assignments, and I just think she would be a good fit.
I echo that. Karen's an incredibly hard worker. Know her well.
Any other nominations? All right, Karen will be it. On to item number 19C, Library Board of Trustees. One vacancy, Library Board of Trustees, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through June 30th, 2027. And we have, I think, 5 applicants there. No, yeah, 5. And no gender balance.
I liked what Joseph Massa, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, had to say about being an advocate for public library systems, that it's an essential resource for our community and has immense value for community. I just liked what he had to say, and he had a couple of preferences, but the library, he said, was his first choice, so I would recommend him.
Any other nominations? All right, Joseph Massey will be that nominee. On to item number 19D, Senior Center Commission. Senior Center Commission, 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2025. And there is a gender requirement, and it is 2 males and 1 none. but we have 2 vacancies. Oh, that's right. So we have, yep, so we'll have to determine who would do kind of an unappointment vacancy. And then we have this January 1st through 2023 through December. They're all really upon appointment, but we'll have to designate which one would get the none, I guess. If it happens to be a female, we'll have to get the none.
So how do you want to proceed with that?
I think we'll just take nominations, and certainly you can nominate more than one female, realizing at the end there can only be one female. There has to be 2 males.
One of the people, I was just refamiliarizing myself, so apologies for the pregnant pause there. But one of the people that I actually do like is, oh my goodness, Nancy Astrogny. She uses the senior center. She's been a member of Parks and Rec, Johnson Seats Commission. She has experience in ADA matters. So that's someone that I think would be good.
I think Susan Melliker also looks like they would be a good fit. And been active in the senior center before, good amount of leadership experience with things.
Yeah, I gave her a little bit higher mark on that one.
I would recommend Warren Paris. He's well-known in the community, been in the community a long time, and I think he would be a good fit.
Any other nominations?
I think we need one more.
One more now.
Well, I had Jay Gilchrist as someone as.
Me too.
Any other nominations? All right, we have 2 males, which is required, and then 1 none. And we have Susan and Nancy that's been nominated. So I guess the question is, where do we have support for? How many would support Nancy? You can probably just throw your finger up.
I nominated her, so I would
And,
support her.
and who would support Susan? All right. So Susan, help me. Melliker. Melliker. All right, Susan Melliker. We'll get that. All right, I think we are ready to submit our nominations.
Where are you plugging those?
Yes, thank you. All right, so where do we want to do the, let's see, do we know? So the people who left are all, they're female. So how does that work? If it's a male
How do we
requirement.
get 2 males? I wondered that too.
What do you,
That
oh, I see what you're saying.
their terms expired.
Well, and I think what she did, because there's also under the new, 2 more vacancies.
So I think we were taking into account, because it's a female and a male that have resigned on the new.
Okay.
If I understood this, we had, the two males could be 19D, and I understood 19E to be, had to be the female. So Susan would be 19E.
The unexpired term, right.
That makes sense, too.
19E? All right, so we're going to go with 19E. The unexpired term will be Susan. And then Warren and Jay will be 19D. All right? So I'm going to try to give this a twirl. All right. So could I get a motion to appoint the following to Board of Appeals: Andrew Martin, and that would be 19A. And then for 19B, Housing and Community Development Commission, Karen Patel. For 19C, Library Board of Trustees, Joseph Massa. For 19D, Senior Center Commission, the two vacancies would be Warren Paris and Jay Gilchrist. And then for 19E, Senior Center Commission, upon appointment through December 31st, 2023, Susan Melliker. All right. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Andrew. Done.
Second, Burgess.
All right. Moved by Dunn, seconded by Burgess. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to items number 20, announcement of vacancies new. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Senior Center Commission, 2 vacancies to fill an unexpired term. 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through December 31st, 2023, and 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through December 31st, 2024. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. Can I get a motion to accept correspondence?
I'll move. Taylor.
Moved by Taylor, seconded by Burgess. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 21, announcements of vacancies previous. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Airport Zoning Board of Adjustment, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Airport Zoning Commission, 1 vacancy to fill a 6-year term. Board of Appeals, 1 vacancy to fill 1 vacancy for a licensed plumber to fill a 5-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, East College Street, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Historic Preservation Commission, Jefferson Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, Woodlawn Avenue, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. City Council information is item number 22. So this is an opportunity, Andrew, where we just give any reports on various meetings attended, upcoming meetings, community events, and items of interest.
I'll start. I'll just like to elaborate on what was said earlier when the proclamation was read for Martin Luther King. He briefly touched on the events, and having attended before, I'll share your awesome and amazing word phrase, because it really is a great event. Starting off at 9:30 at the Eastdale Plaza, by where UAY is on the south end of it. They'll start there, and the Brave Souls will walk from there to Mercer Park, which is a great. It's called the Unity March and Community Celebration, Moving the Dream Forward. So that march is a lot of fun, and then they make it over to Mercer Park, which 10 o'clock starts off with some guest speakers and singing and poetry and dancing, as well well as free food, as they had mentioned, cooked by Royce Porter. And if you haven't ever had her food, it's amazing. And that's really a great event. And what I've heard, which is a good way to phrase it, is that the kids are off school that day, and it would be a great thing for families to come out, bring their children, and utilize this as an educational experience rather than the kids maybe just sitting at home and doing their little iPods or whatever they do these days. Come out and have these activities and entertainment. It's a great event. And then ending out the afternoon at 2 o'clock at the Bethel AME Church, which is on 411 South Governor Street. Is a great event. If you've never heard the Bethel AME Choir, and I know the mayor can speak to this too, and then also the East Union Mennonite Choir, wonderful, wonderful music, and there'll be speeches and a lot of great entertainment, and that's a good event too. 2 o'clock then at the Bethel AME Mennonite Church, and in conjunction with the Mennonite Church. So try to attend those events.
I will just add that is absolutely a great event to attend, but there are other opportunities to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration through the City of Iowa City. We have Human Rights Week, and you can visit mlk.uiwa.edu, and you'll see a slew of events. They started actually on January 6th with UAY having an event that was really geared programming for the middle-aged to high school students to come to the public library and have opportunity to learn over there. And then there's opportunities for Speak, Sing, Act, and Dance. That's going to be January 13th, where performers can register at Iowa City Public Library. But on our website, if you go to that link, you'll see just an array of events. That is just a great opportunity for our community. I will just mention that Tuesday through the following, I think, Sunday, I will be in Washington, D.C. So I'll be at the the U.S. Conference of Mayors Tuesday through, I think, Thursday, and then Friday through Saturday at the Mayor's Innovation Project, representing the City of Iowa City. And this will be my 4th time attending. Yes, one was virtual.
Well, the mayor is going to show me the ropes with the innovation conference because I'm going to be joining him for that latter part. So, very exciting.
If no more announcements, we're going to move on to item number 23, which is report on items from city staff, and we'll start with our city manager's office.
Just a reminder that you have another budget meeting. If you didn't get enough on Saturday, we're back here at 2 o'clock tomorrow for the capital improvement plan.
Yes, great. Our city attorney.
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
And our city clerk. All right. Item number 24 is adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved, Taylor.
Second, Alter.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. And welcome, Andrew.